We're one person away from quorum.
Okay.
All right, we're good to go whenever you want to start.
Okay, it's 6:30, so let's get started since we do have quorum. So welcome everybody to the November meeting of Community Board 8. Before we start, I just want to remind folks who do want to speak in the public session that it is still possible to sign up online to do that if you haven't already. So you have until 6:45 to sign up. You just have to go online and make sure that you have indicated that that's what you want to do. So I will just turn it over now to Will, who will go through the procedure for members of the public to be recognized to speak in the public session.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you have signed up to speak in the public session through the Google form that you used to get the meeting link, Russell will call on you in order that you've signed up. In order to help us find you in the meeting, we would ask that as he calls your name, you use the raise hand feature to help us find you. So to do so, you'll go to the bottom of your screen and look for the reactions icon and press that button. And when you press it, you should find a button that says raise hand. It's not the button to wave or the thumbs up. It says raise hand. Press that and press it only once, and your hand will jump to the top of our list and we'll be able to find you. If he calls your name and you're unable to find that button, you can either look under the participant section or you can chat me if you are here and unable to find the raise hand button so you can unmute You'll notice that everybody is muted, and you're going to stay muted throughout the duration of the meeting, except for whenever Russell calls on an individual person. So with that, if you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute. And for everybody, be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once Russell calls on you to start your portion of the public session. And you'll have 2 minutes once we call on you.
Thanks. So with that, let's start the public session, and we're going to go to our council member-elect, Julie Menon.
All right. Julie, you can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, hi everyone. It's great to see you. I first of all want to thank the chair for acknowledging me, and I'm so happy to be with Community Board 8. I know so many of you, but for anyone that I don't know, I just want to say I really look forward to working with you. I believe in community boards so much. I chaired a community board, Board 1, shortly after 9/11 for 7 years, and I can't overstate how excited I am to work with CB8. We are, just a quick report, we are focused on the transition. I spent several hours today with Councilmember Kalos. We have a really great transition process that we're working on. I am in the process of hiring, so if anyone knows people who are interested in applying, please send along any resumes. Also, if you need to brief me on any issues, please reach out. We are focused on this transition and happy to speak to anyone about any issue that's coming down the pike. So I'll leave it at that. And I just want to say thank you. Can't wait to work with all of you. And my phone, my email, please reach out anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, let's go to Marty Bell.
Marty, you can unmute.
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yep.
I just wanted to, I assume everyone has been updated on the status of what's happened with the blood center, an issue that I've been involved with many members of this community board, and certainly with Julie Menon, who's been extraordinarily active and supportive, and filling in the shoes very comfortably from Ben Kalos. And it's not over yet. I don't want to repeat everything, but if you go to the Friends of the Upper East Side website, you can see the announcement that was put out. There was an editorial from Ben Kalos in today's Daily News that was very important and should be shared with your friends and neighbors, and ask them to share it with their council members or with all council members. And that's basically it. But I need to especially thank the community board for the incredible support they've provided throughout this process. The unanimous vote by the community board was something that people always took note of. And, you know, I wish the tower was within the 75 feet zoning. And if not that, I wish it was lower. But I don't think we would have gotten even what we got if it wasn't for the community board. So I signed up to speak tonight just to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Next, let's go to Elaine Walsh.
How was that?
Marty, you're still unmuted.
Oh.
Okay, Elaine, go ahead.
Okay, just came up. Good evening. My name is Elaine Walsh. I'm president of the East 86th Street Merchant Residents Association. We are appalled at the behavior of the elected officials who negotiated a deal with Longfellow. Your actions undermine our zoning of RB and create spot zoning, and take away from the community input in the ULUP process, given the community and CB8 strong opposition to this project. You have said we do not count, nor do the other communities that have R8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 Bs in Brooklyn, Queens, and Bronx, and the west side of Manhattan. Is this a side agreement? Is it enforceable in any manner? Is it valid. It's not signed by a mayor or a deputy mayor. It's signed by the legislative office. So I would ask that we look at that and that CB8 send a letter requesting an explanation of all of the points that were raised in the letter, including the $1 billion allocation, and I don't see it in the capital budget for 2022. We hope that some council members will respect member deference and vote against the application. Keith, how can you do this to our community? We are asking you to explain your actions and what you are getting in this deal. You have now given the city over to the developers. I want to, on behalf of our board, thank you, Ben Kalos, for fighting for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's go to Anthony Cohen.
Anthony, you can go ahead and unmute.
Yep. I'd like to speak for less than 2 minutes on the unintended consequences of the Blood Center Tower. Nothing in this application, with the exception of the good judgment of a future city government, prevents a future applicant from assembling a parcel large enough to satisfy the 40,000 square foot minimum set forth in the proposed special permit. Nothing in this application prevents a future applicant from demolishing large numbers of existing affordable housing units to replace them with a more profitable commercial use. Nothing in this application suggests that a future applicant could not propose a much taller structure given the relief from height and setback requirements granted under the special permit. Current zoning does not permit buildings in a residential zone to cast extensive shadows on parks and schools. Nothing in this application prevents a future applicant from proposing a rezoning for a tall residential building that will cast shadows on a park and or a school, citing the current application and some future citywide mandate as a precedent. Somewhat outside the limits of unintended consequences was the applicant's apparent strategy. Find the smallest zoning district change that might permit the intended use, then ask for a special permission to ignore all of that new designations regulations. The applicant asked to rezone R8B to C27. They then asked for relief from use regulations, bulk regulations, and signage regulations appropriate to the C2-7 designation. Despite the height modifications, this is still a bad proposal. Thank you.
Next is Wendy McIver and Andrew Ravishir. I see I have you guys signed up together. I don't know if you can clarify if you're speaking together or separately. Wendy, I think you're unmuted.
Yeah, Wendy, you're unmuted. You can go ahead and start speaking. Wendy, we cannot hear you if you are speaking.
Wendy? All right, let's come back to Wendy. And next we'll go to Alita Camp.
All right, Alita, you can unmute.
Got it. I'm Alita Camp. I'm a member of CB8, but I'm speaking individually. I oppose the so-called compromise for the Longfellow Blood Center Tower. First, it decimates member deference. Councilmember Kalos does not support it because it is still an egregious building. He must be given deference. The compromise did not involve the community board, although there was a unanimous rejection of the ULURP application by all voting members. I believe we were played, that Longfellow was willing all along to reduce the height. At the last minute, right when the Crane's article lambasting the Blood Center for the rates it charges for donated blood and pointing out that the Blood Center actually does research at both Long Island City and Westbury, Long Island was published, they negotiated. That the Blood Center testified repeatedly that it needed a short walk from the hospitals and research institutions was a misrepresentation. With its original arguments for building on 66th and 67th Streets defeated, Longfellow Blood Center resorted to arguments about research and unions. They ignored the much greater size the Blood Center would have if it built as of right with the variances the community already supports. It would have 100,000 square feet more than in the tower. Surely there are greater possibilities for jobs and internships and research in a building with 100,000 extra square feet. At city planning, their own rep testified that the differential in construction time between a blood center only building and the complete commercial for-profit tower is only 7 months. There would be plenty of union jobs for years with a blood center only building. This compromise is wrong. My takeaway is that ULURP matters only to the extent that the community is able to compete with the lobbyists' funding. Our voices should matter. Our voices will matter if this so-called compromise is rejected. If you agree that the Longfellow Blood Center Tower is bad for the community, please contact your council member. Better yet, all council members. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's go to Valerie Mason.
Valerie, go ahead and unmute.
Hi, I just want to tell you that as the president of the East 72nd Street Neighborhood Association, it's been a long, hard battle with the Longfellow Tower. But you have to look at it in some ways as a silver lining. This community has come together with respect to this issue, like I have not seen it done before. Many community organizations, all neighborhood associations, giving small and large amounts of money. I'm so disappointed that we are where we are right now, because it just shows you that even a community united cannot, or will have the hardest time, no matter what they're characterized as, a wealthy community, a poor community, a middle-class community, fighting against special interests, well-paid lobbyists, and well-paid law firms. And what this vote is showing us is that even though the names of the people in the council may change, and we have term limits and all these lame duck members, et cetera, that money talks and BS walks. Because you can talk about how you want to make your community better, but when lobbyists are there, it is amazing. I'm shocked to find out that as a resident of the city of New York, I can hardly get a meeting with a council member, but a well-paid lobbyist can go in there and sit and talk to members all day long. This is not the way the process is supposed to work. And for the council to ignore member deference, as Council Member Mancheka said many years ago in the Industry Cities case, you're giving up the one big tool you have in the toolbox of ULURP. And with the new constitution and term limits, many communities will find themselves in the place that we have found ourselves today. I think it's a really sad
Thank you. Next, let's go to Liat Hotz. I apologize if I mispronounced your first name.
If you are here, Leah, please use the raise hand feature that you can find under reactions, because I do not see your name. Leah.
It's Liat. There's a T at the end.
That's the reason why. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. So I'm actually going around community board members in support of a Senate bill that I'd really love to get passed. It's Senate Bill S-189, and it's to introduce prevention courses into grades 5 through 12 for eating disorder prevention. This is the bill that I'm super passionate about. I think it's so important for this to be taught in schools. And, you know, this has the capacity to impact almost 10,000 adolescents on the Upper East Side. Statistics show that, you know, between 40 to 60% of adolescents experience some sort of body dissatisfaction, which puts them at much higher risk for developing eating disorders. This is also such a formative period of life. So, you know, not only is this age group extremely vulnerable to outside influences, They also have difficulty with emotion regulation, and it is the period of life where significant physical, emotional, and psychological development occurs. So when this age group does develop eating disorders, it can wreak havoc on their future well-being. This bill suggests amending the education law, and it will incorporate tailored prevention courses to the different age groups. So this could include developing emotional regulation skills and other coping mechanisms that can help mitigate the risks of developing eating disorders. The courses are also tailored to parents, caretakers, and appropriate school faculty. I've spoken with Senator Hoylman, who wrote this bill initially, and he urged me to go around to community boards and ask that the community board members write letters to their senators, and please try to ask for some support. Be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks. And we can actually look at taking this up in one of our committees, probably the Youth Education and Libraries Committee. So Will can follow up offline about that. Next is Lo Vandervalk.
Lo, you can go ahead and unmute. Lo, you can go ahead and unmute. Do you want to come back to him?
Sure. So let's go next to Imatoma.
All right, Yima.
Hi, all. I just wanted to bring attention to a press conference that we're having tomorrow, Thursday, the 18th at 11 a.m. in the morning. It's Normandy Court Tenants Association invites all tenants and affordable housing supporters to join us at this press conference. It's on 95th Street and 3rd Avenue, the sidewalk by Dunkin' Donuts, to announce the filing of a lawsuit against the Milsteins and Ogden Cap Properties and Associates. You know, we'll be highlighting the plight and injustices happening at Normandy Court. We're getting 10% and 12% increases. And we'd like to, we're also going to be highlighting, there'll be elected officials there highlighting repealing 421A. So I invite all community board members and supporters to join us. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see that Lo is unmuted. Is he, Lo, can you hear us? Are you able to?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Lo Vandervalk. I'm representing Carnegie Hill Neighbors. Just want to speak to two things. First is 1060 Park Avenue. It's a landmarks application for a modification in the rooftop penthouse. Fenestration will be slightly altered, but it looks very good. It's minimally visible from the street, so we support this application. My second comment deals with the blood center. We are very disappointed, of course, how things have moved, and we strongly oppose the compromise because it's not sufficient, and it wasn't made in a way that included many points of view. We urge everyone to email or phone their council member. This is a very special vote. Actually, I have heard that only 13 votes are being sought right now. So we're at a tipping point. So every council member matters. And this is the last remaining chance for all of us to make a difference in this huge effort that has been put forward on an issue that is very important to everyone that lives in an R8B district, and also with regard to larger city zoning issues and the impact that we can make. And so I hope everyone will avail themselves of the short time available. The vote, I understand, is scheduled for November 23. So we have a few days to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Ben Kalos is here, so we are going to turn it to him next.
Thank you to Community Board 8. It has been 8 years that I've been in the City Council. I've never, I think, voted against Community Board 8. I think I've always been proud to support my community board. Talk about the topic of the day last. I will just share that we had an election in November. We've elected Julie Menon to succeed me. We just had a transition meeting today and I couldn't be happier. I was pretty disappointed by the election results for eliminating the 10-day advance voter registration. I wasn't allowed to say it at public meetings as an elected official, but I did support removing the 10-day advance voter registration and did support no excuse absentee voting, and was disappointed to see both of those go down. I was so absolutely. In the last month, we introduced legislation to guarantee everyone have internet access. The CDC found a strong association between households with access to broadband and vaccination rates. And so I think that when you come to your apartment, you have electricity, you have heat, you have hot water, you're guaranteed to have a phone line in your apartment to dial 911. I don't remember the last time I used a phone connected to the wall is. And so why shouldn't we have internet so you can at least schedule a vaccine request? It made some headlines on Curb, Patch, Yahoo News, Z100, not a station I ever thought I would be on as a teenager, but it happened. And so if you're interested in ending the digital divide here in Manhattan, in East Harlem, just a couple of blocks to the north of CB8 or immediately to the north of CB8, 1 in 4 households don't have internet. We also passed a law for urban agriculture because as we saw our food system stressed by the pandemic, that is something that we need to start doing so we actually have local sustainable food. The retirement security for all legislation that I've been championing and passed a law on for the city, Governor Kathy Hochul signed a law to make it statewide, which is going to automatically enroll people throughout the state. So that's always a good thing. We got a new mobile command center for the 17th precinct. We had a lot of family fun days. I've been proud to join Centenary Community and East 60s Neighborhood Association, the Muslim Volunteers. We've been working closely with the Roosevelt Island Committee to bring a bank to Roosevelt Island, along with Gail Brewer, Congressman Maloney, and Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright. And we brought our First Fridays back online, and our fresh food box is going to be wrapping up in November. But what we really want to talk about is the blood center. Community Board 8 is not what I would call a NIMBY board. I know this because I've appointed people on Community Board 8 who work on real estate. And that person has just made a face, let the record reflect. And the issue is if pro-development people who work in real estate who routinely vote against the council member who appoints them on numerous occasions can't even come to an agreement on a project like the Longfellow Tower, then there must mean something's wrong, especially when it was a unanimous vote of the community board when we couldn't even get that on the 210 height cap. And so not to single out anybody, but I have profound love and affection for that member, and we're allowed to disagree in a democracy. And so from the very beginning, they made the decision that they weren't going to negotiate for the community board. I want to thank Russell Squire and countless members of the community board who came and testified. At the hearing, Russell testified that no, they made no changes. They never negotiated with the community board. Borough President Gail Brewer testified that they made no changes for her, didn't negotiate. I shared the same thing. Today, we put out an opinion editorial that really outlined some of the issues, which was basically, could they just lower their heights? Could they get rid of 37 feet of mechanicals in the middle of the building? Could they go from having 20-foot floors and 18-foot floors to a more reasonable 14 feet? And there was a lot that we uncovered at the hearing. You can find out at about benkalos.com. But some of the big things was that they're trying to make $1,000 a square foot. This is a $400 million project. That the people in the Longfellow Commercial Tower would not be required to work with the Blood Center or nearby institutions. We learned that the tower could rise 500 feet to become a skyscraper. We learned that the Blood Center was getting less space in the proposed building, and in fact, in the building that the council members on the Land Use Committee voted for, they'll be getting less space than they currently have in their building. We also learned that their blood supply is not dependent on 310 East 67th Street because they don't actually treat any blood there. They do it on Long Island City and Long Island and in apparently 17 other states where they compete with the Red Cross. You can read about that in Cranes. We learned that the Blood Center had lied about their laboratory needs and that when the community offered to print them 100,000 square feet, which would have come to $100 million, that it wasn't enough. You may read in the Daily News an op-ed I wrote that this really wasn't about blood. It's all about this Longfellow Commercial Tower. The Longfellow Commercial Tower offers their tenants something called Elevate, which is a curated experiences from yoga to Pelotons to cornhole to free-flowing wine and beer. This was something that was particularly important for their experience because according to Longfellow, nobody goes to work anymore. And it seemed like we were going to taking a lot of steps to make Longfellow happy in this process so that they would give money to what is essentially a worthy nonprofit. And you can read the op-ed. We pretty much laid out the case there about why we needed to build commercial on a residential block and why that commercial needs to have. The current proposal includes, it's 11 stories. Now 11 stories is 110 feet, except in this project where you have 118 feet of mechanical spaces, including mechanical voids that this community board led the fight to stop. And when I asked them, would you move your mechanical space to the roof? The answer was that they weren't interested in negotiating. And so that's been very disappointing. I'm still reaching out to them to ask them to come to the table. And I think the last part is if you read the Daily News, they just released an article. We just learned that Mayor de Blasio is giving Longfellow, not the Blood Center, but Longfellow, $100 million in IDA benefits. If anyone can help me do the reverse math, but it's $100 million net present value, which I believe is going to come out to over $1 billion in tax benefits over decades. So if somebody can help me do the exact math on $100 million over the life of the IDA benefit, would love to learn more, but at least by my back of the math calculations, it's over $1 billion. And I don't know that they're actually going to be able to bring that kind of economic impact to our city. And I don't think I've ever seen a subsidy like this for something that was for profit. So there's a lot wrong. As Lo mentioned, the community has filed a protest under the Charter 200A3. And at this point, the City Council needs 39 members to vote to approve this over my objection. And so if you know any council members, feel free to reach out, particularly if I am not your council member. And I'm asking folks to vote with me for member deference to oppose the project. I'm still hopeful that the Blood Center and Longfellow will come to their centers and agree to remove a lot of the empty mechanical space and reduce the height on a building that 11 stories just doesn't need to be 233 feet tall. They don't need 20-foot floors. And so I think that's reasonable. I think that's a fair request. And I think one other piece that was mentioned is most of the community benefits aren't actually coming from Longfellow. In fact, most of them are actually coming from the mayor. So the developer is getting $100 million in IDA benefits. St. Catherine's Park is getting $10 million, but $7 million of that dollars is coming from our tax dollars from the mayor. So it's hard to stomach all this happening without the community being at the table. So please keep your hopes up. Please fight to the very end, because you never know. And I, for one, am going to continue to fight alongside my community board and my residents for right. And I know there's a lot of people out there saying that I should just give up my vote, but that's not how this works. We get one thing in our life, and that's our right to vote, and not giving that to anybody. Thank you very much, and let's keep fighting.
Thank you very much for that report, and thank you for all your work alongside the board and board members on this. Next, let's go to Sharon Pope, Marshall.
Sharon, you can go ahead and unmute.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Russell. I appreciate it. And it's hard to follow Ben on this, but I'd like to emphasize in reference to the New York Blood Center, I'd like to emphasize that it's absolutely critical that we contact all 51 council members. My name is Sharon Pope Marshall, and I am speaking as the executive director for Civitas. I completely agree. It is not over until it's over. And if there's anything that we can do, it is to pick up the telephone, send an email to all 51 members of the New York City Council. And it is not just about member deference. It is also about the protection of our mid-blocks, which in a planning context, those are where our communities live and thrive and grow. So it's the protection of the RAB zoning. And I am imploring everyone to contact every single member of the New York City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Wendy McAver or Andrew Ravishir. I think just one more last call for you guys.
Yeah, we're going to unmute from their phone this time. So it is *9 to unmute, Wendy. Great.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I want to thank every member of CB8 and also our elected officials in the Longfellow land grab matter. And I wanted to say that in addition to the profound assault on zoning provisions and the eternal harm to the light and health of our school children, there is a persistent problem, an everlasting problem with the height pollution that would be caused if this development is permitted to go through. You've heard me testify for years on the environmental hazards and the climate change pollution that increases at the 10-floor height and the 20-floor height, and this is no different. And one of the few protections we have, since we lag in our environmental protections, is our mid-block zoning and our avenue zoning. Other sites have been offered that were more appropriate. It's not that we're against development. It's not that we're against having medical facilities, although this really doesn't qualify as a medical facility. But it seems that many of the other members of the City Council were bamboozled into thinking or into saying that this is a medical facility of importance to New York, when it really is kind of not of great importance because it's redundant in many respects. In fact, Francisco Moya, who wants to be council speaker next, was on New York One explaining this particular view. So I'm asking for our CB8 members, all of our officials, as well as every individual, to contact the 51 council members. Well, we know that Ben Kalos is on our side and has been a valiant fighter, so the other 50, to talk to them and to reach their office as official CB8 members, and also to reach out to the media, because Moya was on New York One and there was no pushback for his opinions and views. I want to say that the type of lab that are proposed by Longfellow are commercial labs that are very short-lived. They're between venture capitalists and researchers for the purpose of producing one drug that is then sold. There's no liability left over for those companies. It's for our safety.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the public session. So we are going to now move on with the agenda. First item is adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to that effect? You can do it just with a thumbs up. Yep.
Lori Boris.
See some seconds. So anyone opposed to that?
We have hands up from Barry. Nope, just kidding.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Next, we will adopt the prior month's minutes. See some thumbs up to do that. I see some seconds. Anyone opposed?
We have 2 hands up. Is there?
I think those were hands to approve.
Okay. Would you like me to unmute them just to confirm?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Elizabeth Ashby, were there edits to the minutes?
You're still muted, Elizabeth. You're unmuted. Elizabeth?
Sorry, asking you to approve the minutes?
Yeah, we weren't. Did you have any corrections, or are you okay with approving them?
No.
Okay. All right. Next, we will go to the Manhattan Borough President's report, unless Gail is going to join us later.
Rosie, is Gail coming?
I believe she is trying to track her down.
Okay, so in the meantime, let's go to the other elected official reports. So if folks will raise their hands, we'll call on you. So let's start with Audrey Tannen from Liz Kruger's office.
Okay. Audrey, go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. Hi there. First and foremost, on behalf of Liz Kruger, she would like to be sure that everyone knows she is publicly praising Councilmember Ben Kalos for his advocacy and leadership in opposition to the blood center. Liz says very clearly that Ben was forever, as he continues to do, presenting information and substantial facts and information whenever there were talks and negotiation. And although some may feel this is a bit better outcome, Liz in no way feels it's justified to accept this plan. She will continue, like all of you, to speak out against this plan and also to reach out in opposition to the plan. She's particularly concerned about the precedent for member deference as well as the mid-block zoning. So like you, we'll be paying close attention on Tuesday with cautious optimism. I know you have a lot to do tonight, so just very quickly know that tomorrow we are having a town hall in the afternoon about Medicare, the different programs. And if anyone would like information, I'll put that in the chat, but we'll have Alan Hauser from HICAP talking about all the choices. He'll be doing a presentation and then we'll have questions and answer. And also healthy, happy, peaceful Thanksgiving to all. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Next, let's go to Jack Robbins from Assemblymember Steward's office.
Hi, all right, yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Jack from Assemblymember Rebecca Stewart's office. Just to reiterate and make sure you all do know that we, of course, will support our community to the best we can in this fight against the tower that Longfellow is still chasing after. And of course, I don't think there's much I can add that we wouldn't agree with that we've heard here tonight. So I just want to give a couple quick updates. Our office has held our 5th successful vaccine clinic for the COVID booster in our office. We did 5 great ones with Drug Mart Pharmacy on East 86th Street. So we just want to make sure we encourage everyone to get the booster if you are capable, or the vaccine if you have not yet, and to make sure all your loved ones are also getting vaccine. As we know, that's a big fight that we still have to fight, is this pandemic. On November 9th, the Assembly member co-hosted an event in Central Park that many of the community board members came to, where we were honoring women, women in service at a grove of trees within Central Park that's dedicated to women who volunteered during World War II and were not able to actually serve in the armed forces at the time because women were not allowed. But we were able to honor some incredible women that day who have dedicated their lives to, help others, including Governor Kathy Hochul, who was in attendance, and many other people. Just want to let everyone know it's a hot topic. Everyone loves the Shredathon. We'll be hosting another one on November 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the 91st Street Green Market. And that's with a partnership with Upper Greenside and Councilmember Kalos and Powers as well. So if you have any questions, I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Thank you. Next, Alex Wolin from Dan Court's office.
Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex. I'm here instead of Rebecca, who has law school. I'm the Assembly Member's Deputy Chief of Staff. I'll just jump right in with, January and the legislative session right around the corner. We're busy hosting legislative briefings, a couple this month, a couple next month. So keep an eye out for those. Yesterday, the Assembly Member attended a rally with families of wrongfully convicted New Yorkers. In New York, since 1989, there have been 321 people exonerated, which is the third highest number in the nation. The Assembly Member strongly believes that there's nothing more important than innocence, and if there's any doubt in the integrity of a conviction, we have a responsibility to revisit it. It may come as a surprise, but even if there is actual evidence of innocence, it's still nearly impossible to have your case overturned, which is why next session we're going to be pushing the Challenging Wrongful Convictions Act, which would guarantee that everyone with a claim of innocence has the right to an attorney, a hearing, and a working pathway to exoneration. This bill has been gaining a lot of traction, so we're hoping to push it over the finish line next session. Lots of support amongst Assembly members and senators, but make sure that yours is on it as well. And yeah, that's about it. Everyone have a lovely Thanksgiving. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, let's go to Terrell Brock from Senator Serrano's office.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Terrell Brock, and I'm a committee liaison from State Senator Jose Serrano's office. Hope all is doing well. If you or your child or anyone you know is still in need of a vaccine, a booster shot, as always, if you need help finding a site or making an appointment, please feel free to contact our office, and we're happy to help. All adults who received their first dose more than 6 months ago are now eligible for booster shots. And this year in our state budget, we included a historic investment of $100 million for arts and culture organizations through the New York State Council on the Arts. And the latest round of grant funding is now open, and arts and culture organizations facing health and safety issues in their spaces, among other capital needs, are encouraged to apply. If you have any questions on how to apply, please reach out to our office. And we're hosting our annual virtual Thanksgiving creative celebration. Any school age child can submit original art, essays, or poetry to the Senator's website and receive a certificate from the State Senate. And if anyone has any questions or concerns for our office, please feel free to contact us at 212-828-5829 or email us at serrano@nysenate.gov. And we're currently still taking PPE requests. I'm done. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's it for the elected official reports. So I'll do chair's report. So as others have mentioned, last week, the City Council Land Use Committee approved a version of the Blood Center proposal. The current iteration is better than where it started, but I don't think it's where we were hoping to end up. I want to acknowledge all the hard work that CB8 members did to lobby City Council members before the vote, particularly Valerie Mason, Elizabeth Rose, and Alita Camp, but also others as well. And as others have mentioned, the process is not over yet, as the full City Council vote is on November 23rd. I do want to note that the city has claimed that if the deal is approved, they are willing to take zoning actions necessary to ensure that deviations from R8B at the site would only be allowed for life sciences facilities. So we are in the process of following up to hold them to that commitment in the event that the ultimate proposal is approved, to ensure that they actually follow through on that. And we're trying to schedule meetings to hold them to that. And hopefully I'll have more to report on that at the next meeting. In addition, I do want to announce that CB8 Holiday Trivia is back by popular demand. So it will take place on December 8th in place of the land use meeting. That's our normal land use date, but we're not having a land use meeting in December. So we will have holiday trivia that day, or that night, I should say. And Vanessa Aronson has graciously agreed to organize it again. So we will send out more details for that when we have them. And that is it for my chair's report.
I'll just go ahead and jump in, as the next thing on the agenda is the DM report. Yesterday we had a really great event that we co-sponsored with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to highlight the complaints that we've been getting about rodent sightings in the neighborhood. The Virtual Rat Academy is what it's called. It was jarring for those of us who don't like rats, but very informative. And so if you missed it and you wanted to catch it, it wasn't recorded, it's not on our website, but there is another one coming up on November 22nd at 10 a.m. We can share the link to that in the chat. Just some scheduling notes for everybody. Thursday, the 25th is Thanksgiving. So obviously we will be closed that day. Our office will be closed that day, but it also means there are a bunch of committees that are moving around at the end of the month, and I want to make sure that they get the attention that they usually would have, being on different days. Housing Committee has been moved to Tuesday, November 23rd. They have a great group of lawyers who are going to speak about housing. Don't miss that one. Youth and Ed has been moved to Monday, the 29th. And then Zoning and Development Committee has been moved to Tuesday, the 30th. So those are all different days than their normal days, but we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to go to those meetings. And that, I'll leave my report there, and best of luck to everybody for the next section of our meeting.
Thank you. So yes, so this is now the election of board officers. So I'm going to turn it over to Alita and Chuck to lead this part of the meeting.
You can unmute Alita. I'll have you there in 1 second.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Are we here? Alita, you there?
I'm here, just unmuted. Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Will.
I just want to say a couple words. We're going to, because Alita and I are going to rotate the various offices, and she will take the chair's office after made a couple of remarks. I think, as we know, this is we're voting for our officers tonight, and we have contested elections in all of the positions. And under the charter and the borough president and the corporation counsel's office, we have to vote in the open. And so there'll be a roll call on all the votes, and the roll call will be called by Billy Freeland, who's the one secretary who's not running for anything. So, and as I think Alita put out in an email for both of us, the chairs will talk for 4 minutes each, and the other candidates for the other offices, 3 minutes each. And we're going to do them in the way they are listed in the agenda, and that's in alphabetical order. And Will's going to be keeping the time, but we're not going to put the time up on the screen because it's very disconcerting, and he'll give in the chat a 1 minute warning to all the candidates. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Alita, and she'll take us through the first election for chair. Alita?
Thank you, Chuck. And good evening, everyone. So this is the chair portion. I would like to say, please just vote and no additional comments on the reason for your vote, so that it's a fair and even-handed election. As Chuck mentioned, we will be doing this alphabetically. I will be working on the chair part and the second vice chair, and Chuck will be the first vice chair and the secretaries. We will tabulate the results for each office before we move on to the next office. So having said that, and with 4 minutes, and please be cognizant of the time. I know it's difficult, but it's valuable. I'd like to call on Ed first and to be followed by Russell. And thank you both very much. And thank you all to the board for cooperating as well. Okay, Ed, please.
Ed, I will be displaying a countdown clock in my video screen. It will only show up where my face would normally be. It'll count down from 4 minutes, and whenever it turns red, your time is up, but I will give you a warning in the chat.
Okay.
That'll be true for everybody who's speaking.
Great. Thanks, Will. I appreciate it. You just start? Yeah.
Go ahead now.
Okay. 10 years ago, I joined the board and never thought I'd be before you seeking to be chair. It's been quite a journey. And the first thing I learned when I joined this board was how little I really knew. Whether hearing Elizabeth Ashby citing chapter and verse R8B zoning, David Halpern giving insight on Beaux Arts and neoclassical architecture, John Phillips bringing fresh perspective and insight about Yorkville, or Andrea Coleman, an unbridled passion for social justice. I am privileged to call each of you a colleague and to have learned from you and everyone I've served and continue to serve with, which leads to the present, well, actually the future and where we go from here. As the largest community district in Manhattan and the third largest in New York City, we're at a critical juncture. With a new mayor, borough president, city council, and one of our own, I believe we must harness our strength together, a collective voice of 250,000 strong, to face critical issues like housing, land use, transportation, families, health, and justice. We must ensure that we as a community are at the table providing our advisory opinion to policymakers. Otherwise, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And to that, I'd like to address 3 issues: committees, meetings, and the role of the chair. It's not gone unnoticed by many. We have a lot of committees, 23. Some have said too many, perhaps hampering our effectiveness. I see it differently, not as a weakness, rather as a strength of our collective experience and intellect, an opportunity to find ways to create more collaboration, teamwork, and communication among us. As such, I'd like to restart regular executive committee meetings of the chairs of the committees and the officers, perhaps twice a year, to see where we're going and how we're doing along the way. From here, we can build synergy, making us stronger and more than our collective individual parts, which leads to our meetings. And to belabor the obvious, they're long. Yet another opportunity, in my opinion, to make our time more efficient and productive. First, to save time, the chair and district manager would post their reports online before the meeting, providing a copy in our packets for the meeting. Thus, their reports would be reduced to simply asking if there are any questions. If possible, perhaps the elected officials' representatives could follow suit. Not the elected officials, just their representatives. Streamlining our time gets to the work of the committees sooner. Ideally, they will have collaborated and present findings as a larger and fuller work product, thereby reducing the number of committee reports per meeting. As to the assessment of their work, it would benefit us and the public if we found a way to better manage that time. And the Independent Redistricting Commission comes to mind as a good template. They utilize the time clock, visible to everyone for both speakers and questions, which leads to the role of the chair. The conductor of an orchestra seems the best metaphor. The conductor doesn't face the public because it's the orchestra, the board, who is the star, doing the work, playing as one, projecting together. A cardinal rule of Robert's Rules of Order admonishes chairs to be facilitators and not participants in the debate. It also means rarely, if ever, casting a vote on a matter, only in exceptions where there's a tie. And to the public, 2 words: outreach and engagement, more and more. 7 years as chair of the Housing Committee provides the track record for carrying out that mission, whether re-engaging developers who'd sworn off our meetings 7 years ago and who come now because of reestablished dialogue and respect, to an email list built from 0 to 500 strong today, based on the number of people we have engaged with. I believe these lessons would allow me to lead this diverse and vibrant orchestra in raising its voice for the community we represent, to be heard and lead the city in the years to come. And I would be honored and humbled if you gave me that opportunity.
Thank you very much. I realized, sorry, I was focused on the speech. Thank you very much, Ed. And now I'll turn it over to Russell Well, whenever you're ready, and Russell, more importantly, when you're ready. Thank you.
Russell, tell me when you're ready.
Ready. It has been a tremendous privilege to serve as the chair of CB8 for the past 11 months. I want to talk to you about what I think I've done well over the past year, where I think I can improve, and my plans for next year. First, the meetings have gotten shorter. I went back and looked at the YouTube recordings, and the land use and full board Zoom meetings are 9% shorter this year than they were last year. That's despite an extraordinarily busy year in which we had 2 ULURP meetings on the Blood Center and 4 citywide zoning text amendments. And I'm sure we all remember the 40 minutes we were fortunate to spend with Chuck Schumer in May. Beyond the length of the meetings, I think they have been well run from the perspective of fairness and neutrality. The board chair has to run the meetings in such a way that everyone feels comfortable contributing and all sides of an issue are able to be expressed, regardless of how the chair may feel personally about a particular issue. I'm proud of my record on this. I've treated people fairly and equally in the meetings, no matter who they are or what the issue is, and have run every meeting with a view to cultivating an atmosphere of civility and respect. I've also worked hard to bring the board together. I've tried to accommodate those who may not agree with me and work to forge consensus wherever possible. I also think I've done a good job handling the committees. I've suggested topics for committee meetings, but I've trusted committee chairs to run their committees and haven't dictated their agendas. I've helped coordinate joint items and provided support and advice whenever needed. And in the rare instances where there are problems, I've stepped in to mediate and address them. All in all, I've respected the vision and expertise of the committee chairs while doing everything I can to ensure that committees run smoothly. I'm also proud of my record when it comes to elevating new voices on the board and diversifying our leadership. In the past year, I've made 12 chair or co-chair appointments to committees and task forces. Of those, 1/2 have gone to new members who joined the board in 2019, 2020, or 2021. Almost half, 5 out of 12 appointments, have gone to women of color. My appointees have also included younger members of the board, and I expanded the officer meetings to include the secretaries. At the same time, I've treated longtime members with respect and have valued their expertise. Finally, I have demonstrated my commitment to CB8 and the role of the chair in the time and effort I have dedicated to this position. I've attended every borough board meeting this year. I fought hard alongside the rest of you against the Blood Center. Not only did I testify at every public hearing during the ULURP process, but I also went to the informal meetings with elected officials and candidates to make our case. I lobbied council members and their staffs and even other community board chairs. I also testified on behalf of the board at hearings on other issues, from planning together to redistricting to congestion pricing, wrote numerous letters requested by our committees. A lot of this job is showing up from beginning to end, and I've done that every time. I want to address what I think I can do better. We've made progress on the length of the meetings, but there's still work to be done. I've tried to allow people to have their say as much as possible while still keeping the meetings on track and progressing efficiently. That's a hard balance to strike, but I think I've been striking it better as the year has progressed, and I'm going to err a little more on the side of keeping things moving going forward. For starters, I'm going to limit people to no more than speaking twice on an item, which also allows more voices to be heard. I'm going to be much stricter when it comes to commentary on items after we've acted on them. In sum, I'm going to work hard to accelerate the progress we've made on the length of the meetings. Looking ahead, if you re-elect me as chair, I want to foster civility and respect by having more in-person and social gatherings. One of the striking things about when we've been together in person is how cheerful people are, how genuinely happy to see one another. I want us to have more get-togethers like that. I also recognize that not everyone is comfortable meeting in person yet, so we'll need to incorporate remote social events as well. Next year, I'll also work with the staff to get meeting materials out sooner to allow more time to review prior to the meetings. If you re-elect me, I'll continue to give committees and committee chairs both autonomy and support. I'll continue to work to elevate new voices and provide an atmosphere where people are treated fairly and with respect and feel comfortable contributing in the meetings. I also promise to continue to give this position everything I have. When I started as chair, I took an oath of office, and I take that very seriously. No matter what happens, I will continue to put in the time needed to do this job to the best of my ability every day. I'm asking for your vote to allow me to continue to serve our community as chair of CB8. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Billy, let's call the roll.
Alrighty, I'm going to run through the roll, and what I'll ask is folks just tell me if they're voting for Ed Hartzog, Russell Squire, abstaining, or not voting for cause. And before I get started, Will, is there anyone who isn't present who I should skip?
No, I believe everyone is here. Give me 2 seconds to rename the top person, or second to top person, Vanessa Aronson, who had to leave and then rejoin. So, but we should be able to get going soon. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Everybody
All set?
should be labeled.
All right, here we go. Again, tell me if you're voting for Ed Hartzog, Russell Squire, abstaining or not voting for cause. We'll start with Rit.
Russell Squire.
Vanessa. Oh, sorry, you said Vanessa's not here.
No, she's here.
I'm here. Russell Squire.
Thank you. Elizabeth Ashby.
Ed Hartzog.
Thank you. Gail Barron.
Ed Hartzog.
Thank you. Lowell Barton.
Russell Squire.
Thank you. Michelle Birnbaum.
Russell Squire.
Thank you, Michelle. Lori Boris.
Russell Squire.
Taina Borrero.
Taina, you can unmute.
Hello?
Yes.
I said Russell Squire.
Thanks, Taina. Ms. Brown.
Pass.
Thank you. We'll come back to you. Alita Camp.
Hartzog.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I was muted a second ago. Sarah Chu.
Russell Squire.
Thank you. Anthony Cohn.
Ed Hartzog.
Andrea Coleman.
Ed Hartzog.
Thank you. Rebecca Dangor.
Russell Squire.
Thank you. Felice Farber.
Russell Squire.
Thank you. Next up is Billy Freeland. I'm voting for Russell Squire. Ed Hartzog. I think you're voting for Ed Hartzog, I imagine.
Yeah, I think so.
David Halpern.
David, please unmute.
Russell Squire.
Wilma Johnson.
1 second. Star 9, Wilma. Wilma, it's star 9.
Star 6 to unmute Will.
Oh, sorry. Star 6, Wilma. I'm so sorry about that.
Okay, Russell Squire.
Thank you. Craig Lader.
Russell Squire.
Thanks, Craig. Rebecca Lamort.
Russell Squire.
Thanks, Rebecca. May.
Ed Hartzog.
Thanks, May. Valerie Mason.
I'm going to pass.
Thanks, Valerie. Evan Meyerson.
Russell Squire.
Thank you. Greg Morris.
Russell Squire.
Jane Parshall.
Russell Squire.
Peter Patch.
Ed Hartzog.
Thanks, Peter. John Phillips.
Abstain.
Thanks, John. Harrison Pearson Paines.
Russell Squire.
Thanks, Harrison. Sharon Pope Marshall.
Russell Squire.
Thank you. Rita Popper.
Ed Hartzog.
Peggy Price.
Hartzog.
Ema.
Ema.
Abstain.
Thank you. Elizabeth Rose.
Russell Squires.
Thank you. Barbara Rudder.
Russell Squire.
Thank you, Barbara. Abraham Salcido.
Russell.
Thank you. Will Sanchez.
Russell Squire.
Thank you. Barry Schneider.
Squire.
Tricia Shimamura.
Russell Squire.
Thank you, Tricia. Rami.
Russell Squire.
Kaz Spagnoletti.
Mr. Squire.
Thank you. Russell Squire.
Squire.
Thank you. Lindstrong Shinazaki.
Russell Squire.
Marco Tamayo.
Ed Hartzog.
Thank you, Marco. Carolina Tejo.
Pass.
Adam Wald.
Russell Squire.
Thanks, Adam. Elaine Walsh.
Ed.
Thanks, Elaine. Chuck Warren.
Russell Squire.
Sherry Weiner.
Ed Herzog.
Thanks, Sherry. Okay, I'm going to go to the folks who have passed, starting with Ms. Brown.
Russell Squire.
Thank you. Next up, Valerie Mason.
Russell Squire.
Thank you, Valerie. And last but not least, Carolina Tejo.
I was going to abstain, but I'm going to vote for Ed.
Thank you. Okay, so the total with 49 votes and 2 are abstentions, 33 for Russell Squire and 14 for Ed Hartzog. Congratulations, Russell.
Thank you, Billy. Congratulations, Russell, and good campaigns to both of you, for what I heard. So with having said that, and again, congratulations, I'll turn it over to Chuck for the first vice chair.
Yes, thank you, Alita. For first vice chair, we have Peter Patch and Tricia Shimamura, and that's the order that they'll speak in, and they each have 3 minutes. And I'll reiterate, we're just voting without commentary. And Peter, why don't you take it away, and Will can start the clock.
Peter, you tell me when you're ready, and I'll start the clock.
All set, ready to go.
Go ahead.
Well, first, I want to thank you all and express my respect and appreciation for all of you and the diversity of views that you bring to the community board. I think that's, excuse me, really essential to having an effective community board, and wherever you are, treating every position with equal respect and equal regard, I think is an important part of our leadership and the way we should be addressing that. You know, having said that, there are a couple of thoughts about my own background. One, at the age of 5, I decided it was my job to hold my family together. Obviously, in retrospect, I realized that meant there was some tension and some division. I was not ultimately successful. My parents ultimately separated, but I want you to know that part of what I'd like to bring to the community board is some of that same sense of holding the family together and finding cohesion and collegiality, which sometimes is less than fully present. Another thing is, about 15 years ago, I discovered I'm really a teacher, or what I prefer to call a co-learner, and have been teaching business, economics, entrepreneurship, and leadership at the college level. Having said that, and some of you know this, my primary areas of concern with regard to the community board are looking out for those who are most at risk and may be experiencing trauma or being, improperly supported within our community. And I think those are actually large numbers. One, for example, the Kohler Task Force, as some of you may know, a year ago spring, the administration of Kohler couldn't tell us credibly whether 12 or 26 people had died from COVID. and they couldn't tell us whether those people that died were long-term residents of Kohler or members of the new COVID wing. So it was really a fiasco. That task force, which is not part of the community board and which was taken over on a basis that I've never understood by Russell, is an example of what things can look like when they're working effectively. Another area that I have a lot of attention for, and several of you know that, is early education. In the Upper East Side, somewhere between 20 and 25% of our students are not reading at grade level in third grade. And citywide, that number is closer to 50%. The fact that we can allow this to happen, which to me is somewhere between a crisis and a tragedy, is something that I'd like us to put more attention on as a community board, not as a critique of the teachers or the schools, but as a reflection on the degree to which we've provided sufficient support to them for that important task. One other area where there's huge work to do is in housing. I'll just mention NYCHA, where maintenance is an ongoing issue. Having said that, in terms of how we function as the community board, I would like to see us put more attention on the committees in terms of processing issues. If you've got points you want to make in depth and at length about a particular issue, that happened in the committees, and that we be more efficient, more focused, and give more respect to the committees, when we bring it before the full board. Having said that, I want to do a shout out to some of the great leadership I think we do have. And I want to tell you, I admire and respect Tricia, and I totally support her. And I also admire Sandrea, Valerie, and Sarah Chu in terms of their support for social justice. Did I hear time?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And Tricia? You can reset the clock and when you're ready.
Trisha, you tell me when you're ready to start and I'll set the clock.
I am ready. So thank you, everybody. It's really lovely to see you, and thank you, Peter, for the shout out. I really admire you too, and I'm glad to have had so many good conversations between the two of us. For the last year, I've had the honor of serving this board as its first vice chair, and tonight I'm asking you all to allow me to serve for another year in this position. I truly believe in the structure and the voice of community boards. For many of our neighbors, we are the first interaction that they may have with their local representatives, and we can be a critical communicator in relaying our district's most pressing interests and needs to our elected officials and their agents and agencies. We can and should play a role in helping shape and protect our community. But in order to do so, I believe that we must be effective in our meetings and in our interactions with each other, and I would like to help us do this. Having worked on the board since 2015, I'd like to think that most of you know me and know my family and have at least some general idea of what I'm about. But for those of you who may not, I will just share that I'm a social worker, I'm a mom, and I am currently the Director of Government Affairs at Columbia University. Prior to this, I was the Deputy Chief of Staff to Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, which is where I met many of you for the first time, many, many years ago. In a nutshell, I want to serve this board, and I want to serve our community to the best of my ability. And I believe that I can do this through serving as our first vice chair. As both the first vice chair and second vice chair prior to 2020, I viewed my role as someone who fills in the gaps. From attending borough board meetings when the chair wasn't available, to drafting letters and statements to the press, to playing an administrative role, to helping set up meetings, I've always tried to help the chair and the rest of the board do its job. When a board member needed help setting up their internet connection, or when a community member needed a printed out version of all of our meeting materials, I was there to help. And now, after hearing from so many of you about the desire to connect our fellow better and more stronger to our fellow board members, I'm working with other members to come up with ways that we can do this with each other while staying safe. I want to use this next year to build community and camaraderie amongst our members, especially our new members, to create stronger lines of communication with our elected officials and city agencies, and increase our outreach to the community so that we can hear from a broader range of voices of those who live and work here. I also want to help establish an annual review process for our staff and, as always, support the efforts of our committees, which is really where the hard work and advocacy begins. I've learned so much from all of you, and I want to sincerely thank you all for sharing with me your perspectives, your histories, and your insights. I'm incredibly grateful to work with you as we grapple with caring for a home that we both love, and I would be honored to have your support for first vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. We've heard from both candidates. Billy, could you take over and call the roll for this election?
Yes, I can. All right. So again, if you're voting, when you vote, say either Peter Patch or Tricia Shimamura, or abstain or not vote for cause. All right, let's start with Rit.
Tricia Shinamura.
Vanessa Aronson.
Tricia Shimamura.
Elizabeth Ashby.
Pass.
Gail Barron.
Gail, you can unmute.
Tricia.
Thank you. Lowell Barton.
Tricia.
Michelle Birnbaum.
Tricia Shimamura.
Lori Boris.
Tricia Shimamura.
Taina.
Tricia Shimamura.
Ms. Brown.
Mrs. Brown, you can unmute. Mrs. Brown, please unmute. Mrs. Brown, you can unmute, otherwise we can skip and count it as a pass and come back.
Yeah, why don't we come back? Alita Camp.
Pass.
I'm sorry, did you say pass?
I did.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to you. Sarah Chu.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thank you. Anthony Cohn.
Peter Patch.
Thanks, Anthony. Okay, next up is Andrea Coleman.
Peter Patch.
Thank you, Sandrea. Rebecca Dangor.
Tricia Shimamura.
Okay, thank you. Felice Farber.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thank you. Billy Freeland's up next. I'm voting for Tricia Shimamura. Okay, next, Ed Hartzog.
Peter Patch.
Thank you. David Halpern.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thank you, David. Wilma Johnson.
Wilma, star 6. Star 6, Wilma.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thank you. Craig Lader.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thank you, Craig. Rebecca Lamort.
Abstain.
Thank you. May.
Peter Patch.
Thank you, May. Valerie Mason.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thank you. Evan Meyerson.
Tricia Shimamura.
Greg Morris.
Tricia.
Jane Parshall.
Tricia.
Thank you, Jane. Peter Patch.
I'll vote for Peter Patch.
Thank you, Peter. John Phillips.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thanks, John. Harrison Pearson Paynes.
Peter Patch.
Sharon Pope Marshall.
Tricia Shimamura.
Rita Popper.
Peter Patch.
Thank you, Rita. Peggy Price.
Shimamura.
Ema.
Shimamura.
Thank you. Elizabeth Rose.
Abstain.
Barbara Rudder.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thanks, Barbara. Abraham.
Tricia.
Thank you. Will Sanchez.
Tricia.
Barry Schneider.
Tricia Shimamura.
Tricia Shimamura.
Shimamura.
Rami.
Tricia Shimamura.
Kaz.
Trish.
Thank you, Kaz. Russell.
Shimamura.
Lynn.
Tricia Shimamura.
Thanks, Lynn. Marco.
Peter Patch.
Thank you, Marco. Carolina.
Tricia.
Thanks. Adam Wald.
Shimamura.
Elaine Walsh.
Peter Patch.
Chuck Warren.
Tricia Shimamura.
And Sherry Weiner.
Peter Patch.
Thank you, Sherry. So now I'm going back up to those who passed earlier. We're starting with Elizabeth Ashby.
Elizabeth, go ahead and unmute.
Peter Patch.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown.
Yes, I have to apologize. I'm juggling 2 other meetings right now on Zoom. And after this vote for Peter Patch, I'm going to have to leave for a few minutes and then come back. But I'm voting for Peter Patch. Thank you.
Thank you. Alita Camp.
Shimamura.
Thanks, Alita. Okay, I'm checking to see if anyone else passed. No one else did. So Tricia wins this vote by a margin of 35-12.
Congratulations to Tricia and also to Peter for running a good campaign. And now I'll turn over the second vice chair race to Alita Camp.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you again, everyone. Rebecca Dangor has her hand up, so let's ask Rebecca.
Sorry, just wanted to add there were 2 abstentions.
On both of those races, there were 2 abstentions.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, back to second vice chair. The candidates will have 3 minutes to speak. It will be alphabetical order, so Valerie Mason, followed by Abraham Salcido. Will, is the timer ready? And more importantly, again, Valerie, are you ready to begin?
I'm ready. Hi, good evening, everybody. It's Valerie Mason. First, I want to thank everyone for electing me the last time to serve as second vice chair. It's been an incredible learning experience and a great collaboration. I always feel as though I am very honored to be among this great group of diverse everything, diversity in talent, diversity in thought and mind. And I've learned so much from so many on this board. It's just a pleasure to be with everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank Billy Freeland, who I think exemplifies a great character in terms of what we can expect from our behavior of our board members. And I also want to thank Abraham Salcedo for being part of this process, and I congratulate him in advance on everything. I was thinking about it the other night. Next to transportation, I think street life has the hardest agenda out there, and those are always interesting and tough meetings. I wanted to do this job because I wanted to be a greater part of the community board, to get to know everyone. I think I've learned a lot in the job. I love doing it. I love being a help to both the chair and the first vice chair, as well as hearing from all of the community board members. I've used this, if you will, campaign as an opportunity to try and get in touch with each and every one of you. I have not succeeded, but I will continue to do that. I'm also looking forward to us getting back together, as Russell mentioned, because I think that our interactions outside the board are even more important than our interactions within the board, to get to know each other, to understand why we say the things we do, why we believe in what we believe, and how we can work together. I think with this new administration, we have to be really, really cognizant of trying to get the mayor to want to be a part of our community board. And I'm really committed to trying to do that. Also, I have really enjoyed the social justice meetings, and it's brought to my attention that we really need to get out there and get into the community and touch those members of our community who don't feel connected to the community board. And I would really want to do that as well. I don't want to go on and on and on. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. And I hope that I can continue to serve in this role. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valerie. Abraham, are you ready?
Okay, yes, I am ready. Thank
Tell me
you.
when you're ready to start the clock.
Ready. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for being here. I wanted to, so first, thank you, Valerie, for serving as second vice chair this last year, and definitely on the tremendous work that you've done on the board, but especially with the Blood Center and being a vocal advocate for our community. So thank you for that. I'm going to be rather brief, just because I think one of the things that in my 9 years of serving on this board that I've always loved is kind of the camaraderie and the good work that we do. And I think one of the things that prompted me to surreptitiously throw my name into the hat for this race was I was taken a bit aback at our last election meeting and a little saddened by the seeming discord that I've seen kind of build over time. And I think that's something that we need to work to remedy. But I think one of the things that was really brought to light and gave me hope in our last meeting was that we have a really tremendous opportunity. We've seen that there is room and opportunity to really improve this board and memorialize things in our bylaws, because there are a lot of gaps, but that's an opportunity. And I think that while things may have been done a certain way in the past, we need to always strive to continue to improve and be better. And I think making sure that we have clear path to how to do things so that everyone knows what to expect and how to do it. And there's transparency in that process will facilitate, better collaboration and more effectiveness. If elected to this role, I would definitely be vocal and try to work with the other officers and have more communication and transparency amongst the executive board, but also amongst all of this community board. Additionally, I think that it's important that we are effective and efficient in our internal affairs, obviously, so that we can better serve our community. And I think that if we allow ourselves to sometimes get stagnated by some discord, then we run the risk of maybe not giving as much confidence to our constituents about the work that we do. And I think we need to avoid that. So with that, I want to say I believe in working together. I look forward to working with all of you going forward, whether elected or not. So thank you for this time, and good luck to everyone.
Thanks, Abraham.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much, Abraham, and Valerie as well. Billy, let's call the roll.
All right, we'll start again with Rit.
Valerie.
Thank you. Vanessa Aronson.
Valerie Mason.
Elizabeth Ashby.
Elizabeth.
Valerie Mason.
Gail Barron.
Valerie Mason.
Lowell Barton.
Valerie Mason.
Michelle Birnbaum.
Valerie Mason.
Lori Boris.
Pass.
Taina.
Abstain.
I believe Mrs. Brown is not back yet. So if that's correct, we'll go to the next person, which is
Correct. She's not here.
Yep. Great. Thank you. Well, it's not good that she's not here, but anyway, Alita Camp.
Mason.
Thanks, Alita. Anthony Cohn.
Valerie Mason.
Yep, and I'm sorry about that. I skipped Sarah Chu. Sarah.
Valerie Mason.
Andrea Coleman.
Valerie Mason.
Thanks, Andrea. Rebecca Dangor.
Valerie Mason.
Thank you. Felice Farber.
Valerie Mason.
Billy Freeland is voting for Valerie Mason. Ed Hartzog.
Abstain.
David Halpern.
Valerie Mason.
Wilma Johnson.
Star 6, Wilma.
Valerie Mason.
Craig Lader.
Valerie Mason.
Rebecca Lamort.
Valerie Mason.
May.
Valerie Mason.
Valerie Mason.
Valerie Mason.
Thank you. Evan Meyerson.
Valerie Mason.
Greg Morris.
Valerie Mason.
Jane Parshall.
Valerie Mason.
Peter Patch.
Valerie Mason.
John Phillips.
Valerie Mason.
Harrison.
Valerie Mason.
Next up is Sharon Pope Marshall.
Valerie Mason.
Rita Popper.
Valerie Mason.
Peggy Price.
Mason.
Thank you, Peggy. Ema.
Mason.
Thank you. Elizabeth Rose.
Valerie Mason.
Barbara Rudder.
Valerie Mason.
Abraham.
I'll go with Abraham.
Will Sanchez.
Valerie.
Barry.
Valerie Mason.
Trisha.
Valerie Mason.
Rami.
Valerie Mason.
Cos Spagnoletti.
Mason.
Russell Squire.
Mason.
Lynn.
Valerie.
Marco Tamayo.
Mason.
Carolina.
Abraham Salcido.
Thank you. Adam.
Valerie.
Thanks, Adam. Elaine Walsh.
Mason.
Thank you. Chuck Warren, you're up next.
Valerie Mason.
Thanks, Chuck. And Sherry Weiner.
Valerie Mason.
Thanks, Sherry. I think we have a couple people who passed, so let's go back. Unless my sheet got messed up. Lori Boris, did you vote or did you pass?
I passed, and now I'm going to abstain.
Okay, thank you, Lori. And then
Mrs. Brown is still not here.
Still not here. Okay. Just looking at the sheet. Okay. The vote is final. 43-2 for Valerie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Billy. Congratulations, Valerie, and Abraham. Good campaign, Valerie, you too. And back to you, Chuck.
Thank you. Now we have our last race for secretary. There are 3 secretaries, as we know. We have 4 candidates, and they'll be speaking in alphabetical order, with Anthony Cohen first. And just to mention that you can vote for as many secretaries as you want on this. It's up to the individual voters. So why don't we take it away with Anthony when he's ready.
Anthony, just tell me when you're ready, and then I'll tell you when to start whenever the clock goes.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, you should be able to start now.
Great. Good evening. Why am I asking you tonight to reelect me to a second term as board secretary? As officers, we can help to influence the overall agenda and tone of our community board. That's why I'm running for reelection. Most of you know me from my almost 4 years as a member of Community Board 8. I'm against overdevelopment, in favor of affordability, and against the interests of the few to the disadvantage of the many, concepts upon which we all agree, I hope. I'm an architect, and architects solve problems and bring people with opposing viewpoints and interests together to achieve a common goal. I think of myself as a good architect and a good community board member. But this has been a most difficult 21 months for all of us. In that time, we abruptly transitioned from meeting together to meeting apart on Zoom. And I believe that our physical isolation contributed to the divisions and personal animosity we all feel subject to. As a community board and as a community, we have always had differences of opinion, but the current level of personal incivility must end. Maybe the first step in that is for all of us to acknowledge our part in the current state of affairs, and for all of us to make a conscious effort to do better. It's the obligation of the board officers to set an example in that regard. Win or lose, I promise to try to do better myself. But that's just the first step, being more collegial with each other. We can do more. The officers should meet regularly and briefly to touch base and talk about the progress and mission of our community board. We should institute a formal performance evaluation process for all district office employees. When we return to in-person full board meetings, might we continue to use Zoom for committee meetings to keep boosting attendance? By way of closing anecdote, during our hearings over the blood center, their attorney, appropriately to his way of thinking, refused to indulge in what he called hypotheticals. We architects always think in terms of hypotheticals. Nothing we do is more real than pixels on a screen or lines on a piece of paper. It is for others to make those what ifs into real objects in space. The challenges ahead of us in the coming year and beyond call for more speculation, more hypotheticals, and more what ifs. Let's start by asking ourselves who we want to be as a community and how we might go about making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. The next is Andrea Coleman. Once Andrea is ready.
So Andrea, whenever you're ready, you tell me, and we'll get the clock going.
All right, I'm ready. Thank you. I'm Andrea I. Coleman. Greetings, my fellow board members and the public. I sent each board member an email for your consideration for my candidacy to become one of the secretaries for our community board. The email included a short clip as well as my bio, tailored to my last employment experience, volunteerism, and community work. One of my gifts have been to take on tasks that are purposeful. Administrative work came easy for me while working for the NYPD. Administrative duties have secretarial components, but administrative work has far greater duties and entails decision-making as well as leadership. I reflect upon September 11th when our country was under attack. At that time, I was working in the Manhattan North Detective Operation Unit, which we called MNDO. The next couple of months was the busiest we have ever been, sending detectives, sergeants, and lieutenants to the morgue detail, Fresh Skills landfill located in Staten Island, and Ground Zero. A few months later, weekly reports that were ceased begin to resume. My colleague that usually did these reports was reassigned to the Detective Bureau of Manhattan. The assignment landed in my lap. Reports I never did. I figured out how they were done by looking back at old reports, roll calls, and a command log. I shared that reflection because I am an individual that knows how to lead. I also know how to receive and take direction. If elected, I look forward to serving in the role as one of the Community Board 8's secretaries. Lastly, I truly do respect your vote. Thank you all for your time as well as your consideration. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandrea. Our next speaker is Rebecca Dangor. Rebecca's ready.
Go ahead, Rebecca. You tell me when you're ready and I'll reset the clock.
Good to go.
Oh, okay, 1 second. There you go.
I have always been a little too much of a nerdy perfectionist when it comes to the written word. I overly relish the moment I find a typo or grammatical mistake in the paper or a book. That obsession, however, is both why I believe I would be the strongest candidate to fulfill the role of secretary and what entices me to remain in that position for a third and final term. The month after my May 2019 appointment, I hit the ground running by writing the minutes for 3 committees of which I was neither chair nor an official member. Throughout the remainder of that year, I continued writing minutes and edited our district needs statement and budget priorities. My changes strengthened our message and corrected errors from years prior, such as mixing up Community Board 8 with Community District 8. Throughout those months, I always reviewed the full board minutes before our meetings and either corrected them ahead of time or by emailing Will or making a motion to amend them at the appropriate time. In January of 2020, I officially became secretary and continued to support other committee chairs while serving in the position. For example, I wrote our letter of comment on the preliminary budget to Mayor de Blasio on behalf of the board. In the age of Zoom, however, my role as secretary intensified. I took the initiative to sign into board meetings early to take attendance. I added a formula to the vote attendance Google Sheet that keeps track of whether or not we have a quorum. In the early Zoom days, some board members had difficulty keeping track of what item we were voting on and whether it was an approval or disapproval. By keeping a record of how board members speak on topics, I am able to flag inconsistencies and correct them timely. I periodically check the participants menu to ensure that all board members remain present, since some have occasionally experienced internet issues. This procedure has ensured that our vote sheets are accurate. Adaptability, initiative, focus, meticulousness, consistent attendance, and tech savviness, at least while we remain virtual, are essential attributes to be successful as a secretary of our board. I believe I have demonstrated those qualities both during meetings and in the examples I mentioned. However, the main reason I enjoy being secretary so much returns to my love of the written word. We all put so much time and effort into our service on the board. While all of our meetings live in perpetuity on YouTube now, I believe that the minutes and vote sheets remain the best reflections of our efforts. It would be a privilege to be able to continue striving to ensure all our hard work is accurately accounted for in both the minutes and the vote counts. I would be honored to have your vote.
Thank you, Rebecca. And our next speaker is Rami Siegel. Rami, when you're ready, we can start the clock.
Well, let me know whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I've been attending community board meetings for about 2 years now, despite my official appointment beginning only a few months ago. I started attending meetings when I was 16 years old. I'm running for secretary because I believe in serving my neighbors, my neighborhood, and the people around me. I don't believe in pushing self-interest or influencing elections or agendas from a secretarial role. I don't believe that's the job. I spend my days as a public school student, but my impeccable attendance record, both as a public member and now a full board member, reflects my dedication to service on the board while also dealing with the ever increasing demands of being a high school student. I frequently participate in other committees besides the ones I am appointed to, and I have attended almost 90% of community board meetings on Zoom and stream the ones off YouTube that I miss. I'm highly organized and have held or currently hold positions within the Manhattan Borough President's Office, the campaigns of Rebecca Seawright, and the Government Accountability Office, among other organizations. I've served as an elected representative in my student government and currently as chair of our bylaws committee, where I led a redrafting of our parliamentary procedure and our bylaws, which sped up meetings and made our government more accountable. I'm skilled with technology and I care deeply about accurate public records and vote sheets. I believe that the public record is one of the most sacred parts of our city government. And I would love the opportunity to work on it. I've become well-versed in parliamentary procedure as well as resolution and minutes writing, thanks to the leadership of many members of this board. During my first official community board meeting, due to a technical error, I was the sole member left unmuted during the executive session, and I assisted the current secretaries in conducting the meeting and counting crucial votes. I won't take up any more time. Thank you so much for all of your support and the opportunity to both run for board office and to serve on the community board.
Thank you, Amy. We've heard from all the 4 candidates for the 3 secretarial positions, and now we're ready for the vote. And Billy, would you take over and call the roll?
Great. And before I do, I should have mentioned the abstentions on the second vice chair vote. So there were 3 abstentions. That means the vote was 43 for Valerie, 2 for Abraham, 3 abstentions. All right. For this vote for secretary, I'm going to ask folks to bear with me since you'll be mentioning 3 names. We're going to go a little slower than before, but hopefully it'll be relatively painless. So again, there are 4 people to choose from. When you vote, if you could give me 3 names, or you could abstain or not vote for a cause. The names again are Anthony Cohn, Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, Rami Siegel. All right, Rit, you're first.
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, and Rami Siegel.
Thank you. Vanessa Aronson.
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, and Rami Siegel.
Thank you. Elizabeth Ashby.
Elizabeth, go ahead and unmute. Elizabeth, we can't hear you, so just unmute when you have a chance. Elizabeth, just unmute. Elizabeth Ashby, please unmute.
Can we pass and go and come back to Elizabeth?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. And before we move on, I should have clarified, you can also vote for nobody, and you can vote for just 1 person for secretary or for 2. So if either Rit or Vanessa wish they had done it differently, just raise your hand and we'll get back to you. Okay, Gail Barron.
Anthony Cohen, Andrea Coleman, and Rebecca Dangor.
Thank you. Lowell Barton.
Rebecca Dangone, Cohen, and Siegel.
Thanks. Michelle Birnbaum.
Rebecca Dangor, Anthony Cohen, and Rami Siegel.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Lori Boris.
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, and Rami Siegel.
Thanks, Lori. Taina.
Andrea, Rebecca, and Rami.
Thanks. Mrs. Brown, is Mrs. Brown back with us?
Let me check, but you do have Elizabeth Ashby right now. She's unmuted.
Okay, Elizabeth, did you want to give us your votes, please?
Yes. Sorry, the whole thing disappeared on me for a while. Anthony Cohn, Andrea, and Rebecca.
And no Mrs. Brown yet.
Thank you. All right, I'll come back to Mrs. Brown at the end. Alita?
Cohen, Coleman, and Dangor.
Thank you. Sarah Chu?
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, and Rami Siegel.
Thank you. Anthony Cohn?
Sure. Anthony Cohn, Rebecca Dangor, and Andrea Coleman.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you said Andrea Coleman, was that your last vote?
1 second. Anthony, yes, that was right.
Yes, it was.
Thank you, Anthony. Andrea Coleman, you're up next.
Sandria Coleman, Rebecca, and Romney.
Thank you. Rebecca Dangor, you're next.
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, and Rami Siegel.
Thank you. Felice Farber.
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, and Rami Siegel.
Okay, I am up next, and I'm voting for Rebecca Dangor, Anthony Cohn, and if I may, I'm going to pass on the third vote, and I'll come back to me at the end. Ed Hartzog, you are next.
Andrea Coleman and Anthony Cohn.
Thank you, Ed. David Halpern.
Go ahead, David.
Anthony Cohn, Rebecca Dangor, Ronnie Siegel.
Thank you, David. Wilma Johnson.
*6, Wilma. Wilma, it's *6 to unmute.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Rami Siegel.
Okay, thank you, Wilma. Recording your vote for Rami, or were you about to say something else?
No.
Okay, thank you. Craig Lader.
I'm going to vote for Rebecca Dangor and Rami Siegel, and I will pass for now on the third.
Thanks, Craig. Rebecca Lamort, you're up next.
Rebecca Dangor and Rami Siegel. Pass on my third for now.
Thank you. Hope I haven't started too much of a trend here. May, you're up next.
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor.
Thank you. And if folks are passing on the third vote, be explicit, please. If you don't say you're passing on the third vote, I'll just record your vote for 2 people. Great. Valerie Mason.
Bill, you can put an abstain into that third category, and that'll help you track it.
Okay, thank you. Valerie Mason, you are next.
Anthony Cohen, Andrea Coleman, and Rebecca Dangor.
Got it. Evan Meyerson.
Rebecca, Anthony, and Sandrea.
Thanks. And just give me 1 second, please. All right. Apologies for that. Next up is Greg Morris.
Coleman, Dangor, and Siegel.
Thank you. Jane Parshall.
Anthony Cohen, Rebecca Dangor, Rami Siegel.
Great. Next is Peter Patch.
Anthony Cohen, Andrea Coleman, Rami Siegel.
Great. Bear with me 1 moment, please. Okay. Thank you, Peter. Next is John Phillips.
Rebecca Dangor, Andrea Coleman, and Rami Siegel.
Thank you. Harrison.
Anthony Cohn, Rebecca Dangor, and Andrea Coleman.
Thank you. Sharon Pope Marshall.
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, and Rami Siegel.
Thank you. Rita Popper.
Anthony Cohn, Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor.
Thank you. Peggy Price, you're next.
Cohn, Coleman, and Dangor.
Thank you. Emma, you're up next.
Coleman is the only person I'm voting for. The rest are abstentions, if that's possible.
That is possible. Thank you. Next is Elizabeth Rose.
Coleman, Dangor, Siegel.
Got it. Thank you. Barbara Rudder.
Am I unmuted?
You are. You are.
Dangor and Siegel, and abstain for the third.
Thank you. Abraham.
I'm going for Cohn and Coleman.
You cut out for a second. I just heard Cohn and Coleman. Was there anything else there?
No, that was it. Cohn and Coleman.
Thank you. Will Sanchez.
Rami, Rebecca, Andrea.
Thank you. Barry Schneider.
Andrea, Rebecca, Rami.
Thank you. Trisha.
Rebecca, Andrea, Rami.
Rami.
Rami Sigal, Rebecca Dangor, Andrea Coleman.
Thank you, and apologies for mispronouncing your last name before. Kaz, you're next.
Anthony, Rebecca, Rami.
Thank you. Russell.
Dangor and Segal.
Thank you. Lynn Strong Shinazaki.
Rami and Rebecca, and I'm abstaining on the third.
Thank you. Marco.
Anthony, Rebecca, and Rami.
Thank you. Carolina.
Triple abstention.
Thank you. Adam Walsh, you're up next.
Coleman, Cohn, and Dangor.
Thanks, Adam. Elaine Walsh.
Anthony and Andrea.
Thank you, Elaine. Next up, Chuck Warren.
Andrea Coleman, Rebecca Dangor, and Rami Sigal.
Thank you. Sherry Weiner.
Anthony Cohn, Andrea Coleman, and Rebecca Dangor.
Great. Okay, thanks, everyone. So I'm going to go back to those who passed before. I think we start with Mrs. Brown just to check if she's back. Will, do you know if is she back?
No, she's still gone.
Okay, thanks. So the first person to pass was me. I had voted for Rebecca and Anthony earlier, but my third vote is for Andrea Coleman. Ed Hartzog, and forgive me if some of this is a little messy. I'm trying to make sure I've got who abstained or who passed. Ed, did you pass on your third vote?
1 second. Ed Hartzog, please unmute. Ed Hartzog. He has an empty chair in front of his screen, so maybe we'll come back to him.
Okay, try to come back to him. Craig Lader, you had voted for Rebecca Dangor, Rami Segal, and your third vote is for
Andrea Coleman.
Thank you, Craig. Rebecca Lamort, you had voted for Rebecca Dangor and Rami. Who's your third vote for?
Anthony Cohn.
Thank you. I'm just checking the list here. I suppose if anyone feels their vote hasn't been fully recorded on this, if I skipped you, just raise your hand. But in the meantime, is Ed Hartzog back? Or
Ed,
he may have abstained. Yeah, Ed, did you abstain on your third vote, or were you asking to come back to you?
Ed Hartzog, just unmute. We do have the borough president here whenever this is done, just letting everyone know. Ed Hartzog, going once. There you are. Ed, unmute.
Yeah, no, what do you, for more voting? No, I'm good. I didn't pass.
You abstained, right?
Yeah, that was it. I only voted for 2.
Yeah, great,
Sorry.
thank you.
I only voted for 2. No pass.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, so I believe that's everybody, unless we have any hands up. There are none, so I'll read the tallies. On the vote for secretary, apologies, it doesn't actually tell us in the Excel how many abstained, but if anyone wants that number, I'll track it down. But 41 votes for Rebecca Dangor, 36 for Andrea Coleman, and 30 for Rami Segal, and 23 for Anthony Cohn. So congratulations to Rebecca, Andrea, and Rami.
And technically there are 14 total abstentions for what that's worth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Andrea, Rebecca, and Rami and Anthony for also running a good campaign. And I think that concludes our elections. And I just want to first thank Billy Freeland for his yeoman work. When we tapped him and said that he's going to have to do it all, he said, "No problem, I'm ready," and he was ready. And
no, Chuck, what I said was my years as secretary prepared me for this moment.
Okay.
So I hope everyone feels satisfied, and if not, I'll take feedback over email or text. Thank you.
And I want to congratulate all the candidates and the board for handling the process as well. And I want to give a shout out to my colleague Alita Camp, who was a pleasure to work with in trying to put all this together, and we appreciate everybody's support. So I will turn it back to our chair.
Before you do that, I echo that, Chuck, except instead of me, I'll put your name in there. So thank you. And thank you to the board. Voting is tough and the campaign was tough. You guys were great. Thank you. Will, back to you.
I'll pass it back over to Russell. I don't want this hot potato.
Okay, hot potato.
Okay, back to Russell.
So I just want to thank Chuck and Alita for running the election. It went very smoothly. So I just want to say thank you very much to you both. And I'm just going to briefly say thank you to the board. I'm really looking forward to continuing to work with everybody next year. So Borough President Gail Brewer is here. And thank you, Gail, for your patience here as we were doing this election. But we will turn it over to you if you like now to do your report.
Thank you very much, Russell. And I want everybody to know I am going to send you a photograph of Russell Squire skating at Woolman Rink. And it was very exciting because it's a I have some issues with the company that took over, but I have to say it was a great day for New York, for the park, and everybody had a great time. So it's exciting to have a woman back, and it is beautiful. So let's see what happens in terms of the future, but congratulations to everybody who skated. All I did was watch, so it was but it was a great day for New York. The second thing that is not in your district, but I am pleased about, it's called Empire State Development. That's the state agency, and they have, a board that in 10 regions, each region is separate. New York is all by itself, decides about state money for economic development, called REDC, Regional Economic Development Corp. And there's something called the DRI, which is the grant that is given out each year. So the long story short is, for the last 4 or 5 years, every borough has gotten this except Manhattan. Jamaica got it, Staten Island got it, Queens, and something in the Bronx. So they were doing commercial redevelopment. And I thought last year we're going to apply, but there was no money last year. There was COVID. So this year, the state announced they're going to give out 20 million instead of 10 million to make up for last year and the COVID. So it was a competitive grant. We hired a grant writer, and I thought the best place that needs it the most is Chinatown, because they have no workers, they have no tourists, they have no court employees, and they have the horrible anti-Asian comments. And they had them in January, and now they have them now. So the good news is we hired a fundraiser. We worked with grant writer. We worked with all the groups in Chinatown, the ones who speak to each other and the ones that don't. And we got the $20 million. And the governor announced it last week. So it was a big deal. And now, to the credit of the state, Empire State Development, there's an 18-month planning process. The focus is going to be on economic development. There's a lot of malls and stores and plenty to be done. There's no shortage of work. And plazas open, lots of cultural. One of the issues is Chinatown has good restaurants, activities during the day, but I know a lot of young people came during the pandemic to help neighbors give out food, but they leave because there's nothing to do at night. So the idea would be to have a lot of cultural activities in the evening, and this will help pay for it. So it's not in your area, but Chinatown is beloved and part of our city, and I just want to let you know it's a big deal. The second thing is that Sunday, December 12th from 2 to 4 at John Jay College, we're doing a reception. We're calling it Manhattan Future, and you're all welcome. There'll be music and food and just fun time, and you're certainly welcome to join us. I want to be sure you know about that. The issue of helicopters is endless. I don't need to tell you that. We have managed, hope I haven't shared this with you already, to get about 35 New Jersey and New York officials, everyone in Manhattan and some people in Brooklyn. I'm so tired of dealing with these helicopters, and I'm so tired of dealing with complaints because I can't do a lot about them. We have tried everything. But as we talk, the numbers of 311 complaints have doubled from last year. And the issue is it continues unless we can find a way to literally stop it. The people in New Jersey have had it. All the elected officials in New Jersey have had it. People literally go to Jersey, get on the helicopter, come to New York City, but they fly across the neighborhoods in Jersey and then take pictures in Manhattan and they go home. And it's really, all you have to do is be in a park for a little while, Central Park, Riverside Park, probably even called Schurz Park, and you hear it. So that is a real challenge to our sanity. We had the press conference at the West Side Heliport, and it's needless to say, a helicopter came in. You could just literally taste the fuel that was falling from the helicopter. So that's what you're getting all day long. So we're trying to stop it. I want to thank Congress members Maloney and Nadler and Nydia Velasquez, because they have a bill in Albany to end all helicopter non-essential trips over any city of over 8 million, but it hasn't passed yet. So just so you know, we continue to work on that issue. The second thing, of course, is we are always endlessly working on the open meetings law. I think you know that we have bought for everybody these owls, which will give you the opportunity to continue the hybrid. And for people who are watching to see the entire room. And so I assume you know that there'll be training on how to use them. I also want to mention though that I don't know what's going to happen January 15th. January 15th is a big day. We've got to think about what's going to happen with the end of the moratorium on evictions, if that is the date, and also open meetings law. So I know you're on top of it, but I just want to let you know that it's a challenge. I actually was chairing a meeting today of mayors around the United States because I'm on the board of the National League of Cities. And I asked them, you know, because it was a tech discussion, how do you handle open meetings? How do you handle hybrid? How do you handle anything? And it turns out, just like community boards, and these are cities that are probably got the same size of your community board in terms of population. It's a mixture. Everybody wants to stay partly in hybrid from one part of the United States to another, because they, just like community boards, they have a much larger participation. In some cases, they went back like community boards did, and then unfortunately, there's a surge around the country now of COVID. So they are back virtually completely. But this, how you manage this hybrid and in person is really a question that's going on all around the United States. And people really do want to keep the hybrid as a model. So just so you know, community boards and all of us, we're not unique in that sense. We continue every Tuesday at 3 o'clock to have a discussion of vaccines on one hand, and where is the money coming in on the other hand. And most recently, we talked obviously about all of the issues of the vaccine and the young people and where the vaccine trucks are going to be and what's going on with that. But at the same time, we have had Congress member Nadler's office has been really helpful. And members of that staff will be at the Borough Board tomorrow morning at 8:30, talking about every aspect of the current infrastructure bill that has passed. So if you want to join us, or if you already know it, fine. But if you want to join us, make sure you know that that is part of what is being discussed. I also want to mention, we had another discussion that, again, where does it go? But the mayor has been given by the Attorney General of the state of New York the utmost credit of Attorney General Letitia James. She got the money from the Sackler family for the opioids, $256 million. My understanding is it's going to be allocated in January, and my understanding is there's a board that has to be appointed. But I want to bring that to, particularly I brought it to the attention of community boards 11 and 10, and also Midtown boards. So you have, you're aware, because people in your neighborhood on the east side are also dealing with the disease of substance abuse, and that's what this money is supposed to go towards. So just so you know, that is a huge opportunity to do something about it, but we have to watch the money very, very carefully, because all money needs to be watched very, very carefully. I think those are most of the issues I want to cover. I know the blood center is something that's on your mind. I do not know how the city council is going to vote. I thought that Councilmember Kalos had a really good article in the op-ed section of the Daily News today. As you know, I did join Keith Powers in saying I couldn't get the number down from 233 down to 210 or under 200. I tried many meetings. I was not able to do it. And at that point, I said, I can't do anything else. So he and I supported, not enthusiastically at all, but what is being discussed at the city council. Maybe there's some other way to bring in other opportunities to lower the height. I have not been able to do it. I know there'll be some money going to the park, but there probably will still be the challenge of what is really going to, I don't know how much of a shadow situation. And also I worry about the schools, because no matter how much you put into the prevention of construction noise, I'm sure it'll still be a challenge, having dealt with that in the past. So those are two issues to be watched very carefully. I have tried every way I can to get it down, and I was not successful. So that's my report. I don't even know when it's going to be voted on, but I'm sure that you do and the council member does. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And hopefully I can get that photo from you.
Yes, you're going to get it.
Excellent. All right. Okay, so let's move to the next item on the agenda, which is the report from the Landmarks Committee. So I'm going to turn it over to David and Jane.
Dan and David, you both can unmute.
Thank you, Russell. We only had one application for our Monday night meeting, 1060 Park Avenue, which was a 65 square foot addition to the penthouse to correct a fire code violation. There was only one negative vote from Michelle. Otherwise, the rest of the committee voted to support. And Lo Vandervalk was here earlier in the public session and spoke in support. Did you want to add anything, David?
No, I thought it was an excellent presentation. It was extremely well done. The penthouse will feel more comfortable within the building, even though you will see just a little bit more because they've changed the material. So I think it was just excellent all around, and I think it should be supported.
You have a hand up from Rita Popper.
Rita?
Make a motion to approve.
All in favor? It's so funny on Zoom. Any opposed? I guess, do we need a roll call vote? I guess you could do it, and if there are any negative votes, I don't know.
We'll return to our normal voting style for committees.
Thank you.
So I'm going to mute our secretaries, Rebecca and Anthony. I'm not sure which one of them is going first.
I think.
Yeah, I'll do
take this one.
Okay. The motion is an approval on the single landmarks item. And so if there is anyone who is voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause, if you would raise your hand. I see just Michelle.
No.
Okay.
You have Rita. No, she put her hand back down. Never mind.
Okay. Anybody else? I think not. Okay. So we'll tally the votes among those present and announce it in a minute, but obviously the motion carried.
Thank you. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you. All right, next let's go to the Parks and Waterfront Committee report, Barry and Tricia.
Barry and Tricia, you can unmute.
Okay, here we are. Tricia?
Hi, everybody. We have 4 resolutions on the floor tonight. 3 of them are unanimous and 1 is not. Should I go to the again? Yeah, Rebecca?
Motion to call to question on the 3 unanimous resolutions.
Is there a second?
Yeah, by Billy.
Thank you, Billy.
All right, if you would like to vote no, abstain, or not vote for cause, please raise your hand. Seeing none, those pass unanimously with 41. Oh, Michelle.
Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, which are the unanimous? I printed it, but I can't get it fast enough. So.
Oh, I apologize. The unanimous are 2, 3, and 4.
So 2 is.
2
is the asphalt green.
Right. 3
is the Conservancy, the Checker House.
Conservancy. And 4 is regarding the UES for BLM vigil at Carl Schurz Park.
Okay, can we take that one out just because I have some comments?
Okay, so we'll take the 2. We'll take 2 and 3 together.
Right, correct.
Right. So then it's 48 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay. Tricia, you want to talk about the first item, please?
Sure. So the first item has to do with HSS and their proposed beautification efforts along the Esplanade from 72nd Street to 78th Street. To clarify on this item, this is not about the tower. This is not about what they're putting up there. This is about the beautification efforts that are going to be along the Esplanade. The HSS has already done efforts between 70th to 72nd Street. When you go there, you can see that there's water access, that there's new plantings. What they proposed has been in the same language that the rest of the Esplanade is in. So hexagonal pavers, bow railing, same native plants along the waterfront that has already been shown to be durable to salt water, and a kind of consistency throughout that area. We were informed by the Parks Department that should the community board be able to pass a resolution on this, that it could go faster to PDC with the hopes of that this would not slow down those beautification efforts. Yes, Rita.
Make a motion to approve.
Sure. I just wanted to give Lowell, I think, who was the one who voted against it, an opportunity if he wanted to speak on that. But otherwise, it's we can move to if Lowell, you don't want to speak on it, then we can move on.
Let's move on.
It's a call to question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was having trouble unmuting. Yeah, I just wanted to speak out because one of the things that I asked for, they didn't even answer, was the labor issues. I thought it would be great if they did the same thing as Rockefeller University when building a mega project, is to cover it with a project labor agreement that includes local hiring from New York City, apprenticeships that show to bring people out of low income areas into career pathways. There'll be no job slowdowns. I just thought it'd be a better project altogether if they did it the right way. That's all I have to say. But I am in favor of the beautification, of course.
We've asked the HSS to return periodically, regularly, with updates on the project to the Parks and Waterfront Committee, and they agreed to do that.
Thank you.
I think Rita called the question. Is there a second?
Barbara.
Saw a wave from Barbara Rutter.
Yes, I saw that.
You can always use the thumbs up or reactions icons to second.
Great. Can we call the roll?
Yep. I believe this one's to me. Okay, so if you are abstaining, not voting for cause, or voting no, please raise your hand.
I'm going to go to David Helpin first because he has an applause up.
Yeah, I didn't get my hand up fast enough, but I'm not voting for cause on the asphalt green. The asphalt green is a client.
Right. Got you. Will the vote reflect that? Thank you.
We'll make sure the vote reflects that, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and sorry, I see Peter Patches his hand up.
Abstain.
Okay. Anyone else abstaining, not voting for cause, or voting no?
Oh, I'm sorry, did you hear me, Billy?
You abstained, right? Did I hear that right?
We're good. We're good.
Yep. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, the motion passes. I don't have the exact yes numbers, but basically unanimously except for one abstention.
Very fine. The next item under item 4 actually is a proposal by Andrea Coleman regarding the conditions at the vigil in the Carl Schurz Park, which was set up many months ago and has been desecrated on a regular basis. And we asked the resolution was Community Board 8 strongly condemns the vandalism of the Carl Schurz Park and calls for the Parks Department and NYPD to do everything they can, including sharing any available video footage of this vandalism broadly to stop these acts of hate. And it was passed unanimously.
I know I see Michelle had her hands up, but just because Sandrea had brought this to the committee, I wanted to ask if Sandrea wanted to say anything further about it before we go to Michelle.
Greetings all again. Thank you, Tricia. Yes, it was brought to that committee from the fact that they cover parks and recreation and so forth. But the vandalism has been going on for many, many, many months. We've been out there since June 2nd, and it's really gotten bad. It went from spray paint to tearing down signs, and now someone is smearing feces on the sign over the decedent's faces and stuff like that. And it's an eyesore. We don't leave it out there long. We try to, take it down. Somebody, make sure, we don't try to leave it out past 24 hours. We do check the visual daily, several times a day. We check in with the time and let each other know as organizers that it's fine. But when it's bad, we make provisions to get out there and clean it up. It's hateful. That is hate, and it needs to stop. So we appreciate the organizers, current organizers. We appreciate, and myself, the support of CB8 on this matter.
Thanks, Andrea. We'll go to Michelle, then Rita, then Barbara.
Yeah, my concern with, I of course condemn the vandalism, but in the be it resolved, I would have been more comfortable if it ended with the first sentence. Community Board 8 Manhattan strongly condemns the vandalism in the Colshurts Park. You can say of the vigil or whatever. What concerns me is the jurisdiction to call upon the Parks Department and the NYPD and to provide available video footage. It's a private organization. I'm not sure who has jurisdiction over this. I know when we faced the First Amendment issues with First Amendment vendors in the vendor committee, the Parks Department said, even though they were First Amendment vendors, that they had jurisdiction as to whether or not they could be in the park. So that the park, the Parks Department has jurisdiction over who is in the park. I don't know that this ever went to the Parks Department, but I don't know how we can call upon them for enforcement, or I don't know what kind of putting a patrol out there. The NYPD, I'm sure doesn't have manpower for patrol. It would only be if they happen to see it. And anyway, I think we were going into waters that we can't clarify, and to ask for footage, meaning that you're asking the police department to provide footage. I'm perfectly happy to condemn the vandalism, but I'm not comfortable going any further since I'm not sure about this jurisdiction here.
Okay.
I don't know if you're willing to make that, to make that adjustment, but if not, I'll just explain my abstention.
Sure. I think I'll ask Will to, just in case Andrea is looking to respond to that. I will say that we discussed this at length in our committee. It was brought to our attention that there was available footage out there, and I believe Lowell was a part of this and Sandrea was a part of this, but it was discussed being a little more descriptive in the type of actions that we hope that the Parks Department and the NYPD would do to assist in stopping these this kind of vandalism. But I will ask Sandrea to be unmuted.
Okay, greetings again all. So there has been members, and I didn't witness, but one of the organizers witnessed, one of the Parks Department employees actually went over where the vigil is at and inside the fence or the gate area when they vandalized and threw one of the barriers over with the stuff, and he actually took it out and he was unhappy with it. There are cameras there. It's not about, no one's asking for anyone to patrol the area. Police are several feet away guarding the mansion, but being that there's cameras and somebody's destroying it, it is a visual. People come by there and the kids are educated. Classes come there. There's chalk we leave chalk out there for the public, and it's been a learning experience, an educational experience for many people. And at the end of the day, it's hate. If it was another spot, it wouldn't be a problem. So It's a public space, but it should be addressed. And that's why we're calling on assistance from the community board and to see what they can do. No, like I said, it's not about anybody patrolling and standing there and guarding it, because we understand what the movement is about. It's against, not against, nobody's anti-police, but it is against brutality. It is against murdering of unarmed Black people. And with that said, the police can address it. They can, I come from law enforcement, I'm medically retired. They actually can view the footage and find out who it is, because at the end of the day, it's one of our neighbors that is showing hate. And we know if it was any other hate crime, it wouldn't probably, this conversation probably wouldn't even be happening. Thank you.
Okay, so Andrea, you can just give me a thumbs up, but you'd like to keep the language as is. Okay. We'll go to Rita and then Barbara and then Alita, I think is the order.
Yep.
I think that anything that we can do to curtail this egregious act should be done, and I approve and ask that the committee approve this motion for these, for the vigilance.
Okay. Thanks, Rita. We'll go to Barbara, then Alita, then Billy and Patrick. I see your hand up, but I think Barry, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a member time only. Is that correct?
No, we can hear from members of the public.
Okay.
Well, no, I don't think so. Not in a full board meeting.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sir. Yes,
Sorry.
yes, Mr. Chairman. Barbara,
I'm up. First of all, I don't know how to question whether the police should be part of this horrendous violation that was happening. So I strongly support it. I do have a question. I know Barry and Tricia have heard this question, and maybe Sandrea can give some light on it. I have been disturbed that we have been less access to the park because the mayor has, or the police protecting the mayor. What do you say? That has something to do with the Black Lives Matter, I think. Barry, I see you shaking your head no.
No. I've spoken to the 19th precinct, the community affairs officer, and the folks who are protecting the mayor's office are not part of the 19th precinct. The park would be in the 19th precinct's jurisdiction.
Well, but who's blocking off? And is it because, my question basically is, do you think it's because of this group that's there? Is there anything we can do to sort of say that we shouldn't be blocking off areas of our park?
We can certainly take this up, Barbara, and we should.
I'm very frustrated with it, and I'd like to know why it's happening. And
yeah, I will say that these are not connected in my.
You don't think they're connected?
In my understanding.
Well, of course, I'm totally supportive of the original language of the resolution.
Lita.
Thank you. I fully support the resolution as written. I think we have to take every available and the strongest possible steps to address hate in any form, because if you leave one alone and don't act strongly, it spreads and it grows, and the community board has a responsibility, not just for that particular, for the vigil and the expressions that it embodies, but also for any instance of hate around the community. I don't think it's a question of First Amendment. I know that's not what you were talking about, Michelle, but to just not call for enforcement as possible and information as strongly as possible sends the wrong signal to the community and to the people who particularly care about that, which should be the community. So rather than babble on, I just want to, again, support the full resolution and say the community board needs to be at the front and center of any instance of hate in our district. Thank you.
Thanks, Alita. Billy?
Yeah, so I just want to say, we should keep the resolution as is. To the extent there's a First Amendment or speech question, I am pretty sure that vandalizing a memorial with feces is not protected speech. You know, there is a question about other things like graffiti being protected speech, but that's not what this is. And this is not art. And I don't know, we don't have to have me pontificate on what's protected by the First Amendment, because even if it weren't protected speech, I think we'd have an interest in, or even if it were protected speech, I think we'd have an interest in shaming the person who is doing these despicable acts. So I support keeping it in completely.
Rebecca.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to speak as someone that organized with the vigil and was a co-founder of it. For the police barricade issue, I can say it is about the vigil, so I would love for the Parks Committee to take it up. As someone that formerly led the march through the park, facilitated the march as well with other organizers, I personally witnessed NYPD put barricades up and then remove them immediately as soon as the peaceful march was done, the nonviolent march. So I would love to see the committee take that up. And for this specific resolution, I'm supportive of it. I'm just personally grappling with the notion that a space that was founded on defunding the police and abolition is calling on the NYPD for support. I think we need to have a larger conversation. We have to use the tools in our toolbox that we have right now as taxpayers, and all we have is the NYPD until hopefully we come up with something else. But outside of that, I think it's about a groundswell of support. You know, if board members here are supportive, then go out and attend the vigil on weekends, be there in solidarity, show strength in numbers. So this resolution is a great start, but I think it's a lot more in our community than just calling on police to fix this, because they quite honestly will never be able to, because it's the roots of racism and division and segregation in the community. So I would hope that long term, we have some more hard but very real conversations about this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I will just say that's very much aligned with what I got a message from Patrick Boblin, who I know is not allowed to speak in this session, but that's very much reflective of what he wanted to share too. So just for people to know. And then Sharon Pope Marshall. Oh,
wait 1 second.
Sorry.
Rebecca wasn't
Rebecca,
done and I
yeah.
accidentally muted her.
Yeah, no, I would just like to be clear. Those were my feelings. I was not communicating on behalf of anyone. Patrick as well, I know, has feelings and would like to speak right now. I see his hand raised, but I would just like to be sure this is me communicating as myself. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just wanted to share it because I don't think we can allow members of the public to speak right now. So if we were in person, I think we would have offered the opportunity for anybody from the public to talk to a board member and share those. So I just wanted to add that in because it was very similar to what I received. But thank you. That was your comments. Absolutely. Sharon Pope Marshall.
I'd like to move to approve.
Call the question.
I'd like to call the question.
There's a second. I see.
Rebecca Dankor.
Right. The question's been called. Would you call the roll, please?
So let's make sure everyone's hands are lowered. If you would like to vote no, abstain, or not vote for cause, please raise your hand. Michelle.
Abstain.
Abstain?
Yes.
All right. Seeing no others, the motion or the resolution passes with a vote of 46 to 0 to 1.
Thank you for everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tricia. Congratulations.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, let's go next to the Social Justice Committee and Sarah and Sandrea.
Both of you can unmute now, whenever you're ready. You're both unmuted.
Okay. All right. So I'll start a little bit. So greetings again. This resolution that we passed at our Social Justice Committee meeting is very essential. People in public housing, not just in Isaac and Holmes Towers, are going through environmental issues, and it is a social justice issue. We had Dr. Roger Flores, who is a thoracic surgeon, come in and give a brief presentation to show the harms, the health hazards that are inflicted and impacted upon people that live in public housing. Public housing was built for a need to house people. When tenements, before public housing, there were tenement buildings, and there was overcrowding and they were hazardous. And public housing was supposed to be part of a remedy as well for that. It's no longer a remedy. It's bad to live there. People are suffering. This actual Dr. Roger Flores actually went into homes of some of his patients in East Harlem to see the mold, the mildew, and the conditions. So we know there's a huge disinvestment over several decades of public housing. And it is our hopes that this community board can pass this resolution, and it will go to our elected officials as well as the current mayor and the incoming mayor, so they can really take a look, because it's no wonder NYCHA, you hear everything in the news, NYCHA. It's really bad. We are the new Flint, you know, from lead poisoning to other underlying conditions that we are getting from just living in our apartments. And our government, our local, state, and federal government needs to step up to make sure that we are living in humane conditions instead of inhumane conditions. So I just wanted to stress about how important this resolution is. It's not just about Isaac and Holmes Towers or the buildings, the NYCHA buildings that are in CB8. This resolution will be a catalyst, and it will help help other residents throughout the city that lives in NYCHA that are going through the issues. So I hope that it can be passed. Sarah, you could take over when you're ready.
Thank you, Secretary-elect Coleman. So we had the opportunity to craft this resolution with our committee and with the members of the public who are present. And so just to very briefly describe the resolution in case you haven't read it, the first whereas is establishing investments in NYCHA as a matter of environmental justice. The second whereas talks about how we need to be thinking about NYCHA residents as our neighbors. They're our community members and our first responders, and we really do owe them the public investment in their homes. The third whereas, it talks about the importance of prevention and how prevention is more effective than treatment. This is something that we learned from Dr. Flores, and that in the same way that it applies to health, it also applies to housing. And in the resolved, we call on all levels of elected officials to do their part to invest in and improve NYCHA housing. I did realize that I made a mistake in the resolution. There are two be it further resolved. The second be it further resolved was a error of insertion. That last be it further resolved clause should all be one clause. So then now let's ask our colleagues if you have any comments, or if does anyone want to speak on this. I see Rita's hand is up. Rita, if you would like to speak.
Can I just add one thing in that I didn't say, but Rita, you could unmute. There was an article in the Patch paper, and this actual zip code and our 5 buildings were impacted with COVID more than our neighbors. So that alone, it ravished through our 5 developments. We had some deaths as well compared to our neighbors that, you know, it's much more. So I just wanted to bring that up, and maybe I could share the article with Will. I think it was in our emails in the past. Thank you. Go ahead, Rita. Sorry.
You know how I feel about this. Hearing this for more years than are possible. I have letters, I have articles where NYCHA was given money to abate mold, only to find out a year later that they didn't abate the mold, but nobody knows where the money is. And this has been going on, and on and on and on. This is for boilers. This is for hot water. This is for elevators. This is for mold. This is for everything. And when do we realize that it's not working and that we have to do something differently? It's just, I am supporting this 100%. I support everyone, but I don't live there and I'm frustrated. You live there. I don't know how you're not screaming. I think that we have to find the next step. We have to find a new way to do it, because we had the lead poisoning that lots of money was put in, only to find out it wasn't used. Where'd the money go? Nobody knows. The same thing with mold, the same thing with your boilers. I have all of that. I have all those articles. Hopefully that we will be able, I don't know where it belongs, whether it's in housing or in social justice. I have a feeling that this probably belongs more in housing, but I'm behind it 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. I see Alita's hand up, followed by Billy, followed by Chuck.
Thanks, Sarah. I see that you are sending it to Congress and the state, and I'm wondering how strong, if there's any possible stronger language for an audit of the finances of NYCHA in connection with this, if the state attorney general or someone at HUD or one of the other federal agencies, because the city seems incapable of doing anything with NYCHA financially. And then to just always be thinking about the city's plans to privatize or to provide land and to give the running of it over to private entities as an excuse. I don't know if it improves anything, but I'm just suggesting something about audit language, because if anyone else did this, they'd be in jail. So I don't understand how they get away with this for so many years. Thank you.
Hi. So I'll try to be brief here. I was just, caught my attention is your notes about ground floor frontage. And I was wondering, is the idea to potentially do commercial leases in some of the spaces and rooms that are kind of off to the side of the main lobby on the ground floor of some of these buildings? Would it at all touch the space where you have the elevator entrances and mailboxes? I was hoping to learn a little bit more about what we see in the ground floor space at NYCHA would look like.
Yes, that was suggested by thoracic surgeon Roger Flores, so it could, and help the community, help it thrive, and hopefully that some residents could be hired in those positions and in those businesses. But it hasn't happened yet, but there are spaces. It is possible, and he's giving a different vision for public housing that should be there. They want to lease the land, they want to build on the land, but they don't want to empower the land with businesses. So there are spaces, there are rooms that, they can create. They can build anything. They built a utility room, electrical room rather, in my building. So it's doable. But it was a suggestion by him. And I could put you in contact with him, Billy, if you want to talk to him further.
Oh yeah, happy to offline. Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And just to quickly respond to Alita's comment, in the be it further resolved, the second be it further resolved, that's supposed to be part of the first be it further resolved, that we do ask the incoming Manhattan District Attorney to audit the NYCHA expenditures. And so I don't know if you'd prefer to add something stronger, or if there's another way to describe the audit that you think would be more effective, Alita.
I don't unmute Alita.
Thank you. I just saw this. I just got it. Whatever, like, I don't know this area particularly well, but I think if they're in potential violation of state or federal rules, and I know the Fed somehow control the land or something it's on, I would go through that. I don't know if there is, it's a new DA, and I don't know how, I mean, I don't know, whatever level will get the strongest financial oversight and audit possibilities. And I don't know the language. I think maybe there's someone on the board who is more familiar with how to do this legally, maybe Billy or Chuck. I don't know, but I'm not sure that audit is enough. There should be specifics about what you're looking to audit, for how many years, what to do with the audit reports, who they should go to, who actually does the audit, those kinds of language, because I think the more specific you are, the stronger the demand for an audit will be, or the resolve for an audit will be. Thank you, Sarah.
Also, sorry, Sarah, I think Sarah's muted. I would just add that the controller has done several audits, but I don't know if anything was really done on the financial aspect, but he's done regarding the heating conditions and so forth. And we also have a federal monitorship, but it's actually it's the powers that are in place that these things are happening, because it's systemic and it's been going on for decades. So hopefully we can get an audit, a real audit, and have some results beyond that. And also, if it's found that there's some criminality, there'll be some accountability for that too. And I had Alvin Bragg on the One Night podcast. He did speak about that. He would have, our next Manhattan District Attorney would have jurisdiction over all of NYCHA because his office is in Manhattan. Okay, Sarah.
Okay, just as long as some, again, I don't know how strong our voice will be, but as long as something is done, and I imagine that every NYCHA development in the city, as well as communities, have a real interest in seeing where the money is going, because it just seems to have gone into a black hole. And it's not just under this administration, it's been successive or preceding decades. Same thing with the state and the federal level, and they need to be accountable. So I would certainly go back and send as much information as you could as well to Congress and to the federal agencies that are responsible too. And maybe the Biden administration is friendlier to that. Thank you.
Yeah. I agree 100% with you. I was at a city law breakfast on January 15th of 2019, and Bart Schwartz, who is the monitor, I questioned him about funding, and he basically said they don't trust NYCHA. So, and there's $30 million received from HUD every week, besides other streams of income. But that was his statement in front of a room full of people. So historically, we know there's been audits, there's been not good audits, but there's been issues. There's been write-ups about money, mismanagement of funds and everything like that. So yes, we need the accountability. And I believe this resol would be a catalyst to help with accountability of the funding and everything else that's going bad within NYCHA. Sarah's muted. I don't know who's next.
Chuck Warren next.
Chuck, yes. Okay.
Go ahead,
Chuck. Sarah's up.
I'd like to call the question on this resolution.
That's seconded by
Do we have
Taina.
a second? Super. All right. And the secretary could call the roll, please.
Okay. I'm taking this one. And if you are voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause, this is a motion to approve the resolution from social justice. And I see Jane's hand raised.
Jane, go ahead and unmute.
I'm abstaining.
And in the absence,
Just really quickly, David Halpern, you were putting in a reaction. I just want to make sure you weren't trying to raise your hand. I don't see him.
I see him, but I can't tell.
David, just in case.
I was seconding call the question.
Beautiful. Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other hands, the motion carries 46-0 to 1.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Street Life and Abraham.
Wait, you may have missed a vote. Michelle, were you trying to vote
No,
there?
I'm fully supportive of the resolution. Because the vote was over, I was going to make this comment before, but now I just wanted to add, I've spoken
No,
about this.
Michelle. Sorry, no, we're moving on. We've done that item. We're going to the next thing.
Abraham, go ahead and unmute.
All right, thank you, Will. For Street Life, we had 8 items on the agenda. They were all unanimous approvals. So if anyone would like to, Billy?
Motion to take them all together.
Great. Do I have any thumbs up to second? Great, I see a thumbs up. Okay, I guess we'll call the question. If anyone's in favor. Okay, then I'd like to hand it over to the secretaries.
Great, that'll be me. So on the Street Life items, please raise your hand if you're voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause. Great, okay. Seeing none, the Street Life items all pass 47-0.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any old business or new business? If not, someone wants to move to adjourn.
Barry Schneider?
Barry?
Well, move to adjourn, please.
Okay, Rit seconding. Anyone opposed? No, looks like everybody's in favor. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a good night.
Night.